I'd like to call the April 2, 2013 meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Commissioners to order. And please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join me in prayer. God, thank you for this beautiful all the beautiful seasons you give us. Each one has your love and wishes to enjoy change written on each one of them. As the flowers bloom and the trees come back to life with leaves, birds, and growing time, help us to grow as people and try to do your will and try to do the right thing. Each seed, bloom, leaf is a miracle of a new beginning and promise of warmer and better days. Help us to give others better days, to raise our children and grandchildren in a way that's pleasing, and to leave this beautiful place that you've given us in better shape than the condition we inherited from the people who came before us. Thank you for the chance to appreciate all nature and your touch on each animal, plant, vegetation, and person. We're all woven together with your creations, and we're happy to be part of your world and share it with everyone. Amen. Amen. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the Commission, it's the duty of every commissioner to avoid both actual and apparent conflicts of interest. Does any board member know of any known conflict or possible conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before the board?
No, sir.
All right. Then we will proceed to let's go ahead and vote. Is there a motion to follow the agenda with the addition of the proclamation of days of remembrance of the victims of the Holocaust to proceed with the agenda as we have discussed?
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Jones. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner King. Is there any discussion of following the motion or following the agenda as we have published it? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Then we will follow the agenda as we have discussed. Public comment. The time for the comment to this commission is 3 minutes. If your time expires, you can leave any questions along with your name, address, phone number, or email with the county manager. Board members are not expected to comment on matters during the public comment. This is your time to talk with us. Comments should be limited to subjects that are within the jurisdiction of this commission or pertain to matters upon which we may act. Any individual speaking during public comment shall address the entire commission. Any polling of commissioners is inappropriate. Persons addressing the commission are expected to observe the decorum of the chamber and to be respectful of everyone in this room. Any person who willfully interrupts, disturbs, disrupts the session will be asked to leave the meeting, and our commission deserves the right to deny any public address on any subject previously presented to the commission. Now, we will have a time if we vote on the sexual orientation and gender identity, pending some motions we're going to hear. You will have time to comment on that at a later point. So I would ask that everyone that has comments on that subject wait until we get to that matter on the agenda. Is there any public comment on any other matters? Yes, sir, Mr. English.
My name's Fred English. I live over in East Sodom. 80 years ago today, about this time, I weighed 10 pounds. And I was proud of my mama's bouncing baby boy. I've lived in Asheville or had connections in Asheville for all these 80 years. I don't like what I see going on. I don't like it at all. What y'all have done can be changed in the next election. The Republicans had it, and you stole the seat back somewhere or other from the lady that won the election. I want to read one little thing to you, and I won't have anything more to say about it. A person who pretends to have virtues, morals, and religious beliefs, principles, and so forth that he or her does not actually possess, especially a person whose actions belie standard beliefs. A person who feigns some desirable pre-publicity approval attitude, especially one whose private life, opinion, and statement belie his or her public statements. You know what that describes? That's a hypocrite. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. English. Any other public comment today? Yes, sir, Mr. Ditmore.
I'm Alan Ditmore of Old 20 Leicester. I'm just going by this Ironman competition budget amendment. I have to make some assumptions because I wasn't online. But if I'm to assume that that means we're spending money on an Ironman competition, then that doesn't seem a great use of tax money to me. The other's a public hearing, so I guess that's it.
Okay, there may not, I'm not sure we could have a public hearing on that. If a member of the commission wants to do that. If you want to comment on that, go ahead, because I'm not sure. Okay. We have it online, the budget amendment and actually the PowerPoint. Basically, it's a request for $40,000 matched by the TDA. Okay, any other public comment? Yes, sir, Mr. Rice. Anybody besides Mr. Rice? Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I wouldn't want to miss this opportunity. I'd be afraid you'd go away sad. One of the things I do want to thank you for is getting the meetings on the night schedule back where people can see it instead of 12:30 in the day. I think that's honorable for all of you to do for your constituents. The other thing is I haven't been able to move up to the front. I'm getting old, can't see, can't hear, and you still won't get me up here. So I'd like for you to get that piece of work done for me if you don't mind. I'd like to be closer to you, you know. I like the fellowship. The third thing is that, you know, we'll be talking about child prevention, child abuse today. This month of April is also Autism Awareness Month, which we need to be well aware of, and I'd like to see that brought to the commissioners as well, because that's one of the biggest workforce that we've got in the public sector today that's actually in serious need of some work. And I noticed today that the President Obama is coming out with something about a class action lawsuit about the sheltered workshop for people with autism. So I think the public needs to be aware of this, and if the commission would do that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it is time. We probably do need to discuss that camera location, so maybe the next meeting we could add that to the agenda.
We did have the fire marshal come in and take a look, and we're not allowed to put anything in this area. That is the main exit from the room, and we're not allowed to put anything there that would block anything. The only other place he recommended was back along this wall on the side.
Okay.
So it's not any closer.
That would work fine.
Why don't we formulate some options on that side? Because that I would probably support that. It's pretty far in the back there.
Yeah, they're way back in the back. Yeah, it's too far.
Just if you can get us the information. So that's out totally anywhere up on this side?
I can get the board a copy of the fire marshal
Okay,
letter.
that'd be good.
Sure.
Let's go ahead and get that and circulate that, and maybe and put that on our agenda early so we can be talking and thinking about that. Thank you. All right, any other public comment tonight? We're going to hear on the sexual orientation, gender identity in a few minutes. We thank you. I know a lot of folks here want to talk about that. All righty. We have already, by passing the agenda, we've already passed the consent agenda. Let's start off with the proclamation of days to remember the victims of the Holocaust, April 7 through 14, 2013. I think we have a proclamation. It's my understanding that I think some of the commissioners are going to go to a ceremony this weekend. Is that right? Mm-hmm. And I'd ask that they present that at that point. But let's go ahead and pass that. Is there a motion to pass the proclamation as it has been circulated?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion to pass the proclamation. Just a summary. I don't know if it has been circulated, but basically going through the history and then proclaiming the week of April 7 through 14 as days of remembrance for the victims of the Holocaust. Any discussion? Motion by Commissioner King, second by Vice Chair Jones. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of adopting the proclamation say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The proclamation is adopted 5-0. Under good news, we have some great news, and I'll ask Commissioner Newman to the only Warren Wilson graduate we have up here, I'll have you know, to come and welcome our national champion Warren Wilson basketball team.
Oh, owl.
Come on up, guys. Come on, if you can.
Get them up here.
We also have President Stephen Solit is also here, and these guys didn't just win the region; they won the whole country. They in a capacity crowd. They were 9th seeded. They won their first national championship, defeating host Penn State Fayette 76-68, and they won 12 in a row to get there.
Wow, it's awesome. Good job.
12 in a row is pretty good.
Okay, I'm going to come around over here for just a second. Chairman Gant, thank you very much for providing me with the opportunity to read this resolution and present this plaque from the Buncombe County Commissioners. I love Warren Wilson College. As a graduate of Warren Wilson, I'm really honored to present this. In fact, I love Warren Wilson so much. I took classes there for about 10 years before I finally graduated from Warren Wilson. So, but it's a real honor to present this. I'd just like to read the plaque. The Buncombe County Commissioners recognize and honor Warren Wilson College, 2013 USCAA National Basketball Champions. On behalf of the citizens of Buncombe County, this board expresses its sincere appreciation, honor, and pride in the accomplishments of the Warren Wilson College Owls men's basketball team on the occasion of your national championship. We commend the team, coaching, and support staff for dreaming big, working hard, and bringing honor to your county this second day of April 2013, the Buncombe County Commissioners. So congratulations, guys. Great job.
President,
Medal on or something.
To share a few words about your amazing season and this accomplishment, we'd love to hear. We'd love to hear from you. So, thanks very much. Come on up. Yeah, speak on the mic so everybody can hear you.
All right, don't worry about it. Well, first and foremost, thank you guys for having us. What a season. We made a goal our previous year when we went 16-9 and made some history, and our goal was to win a national championship. And we had a coaching transition, and we went through preseason, didn't have a coach. We had Coach Tiger Norman, who was our facilitator for pretty much everything. And once we got a coach, we hit the ground running. We had our bumps in the road, but we were 7-10 about halfway through the season, and we pulled it together. And every game that we won, we had to win, and we barely squeaked in. And once we got in, we knew going in that we were going to win, because no team had gone through what we had gone through from the day that we found out our coach was leaving until that point that we got the news that we got in. I was a senior this year along with 4 other seniors, and it was a dream come true for me, and I'm sure it was a dream come true for my brothers. And I want to personally thank God for allowing me to be with these guys and work hard and see the progress with everyone from the time that we didn't have a coach until the time that we cut down the nets. to say that we were national champions.
Yay.
Well said. Very good.
President Solnick, why don't you go ahead and say a few words about it? Why don't you say a few words?
I just want to echo Anthony's thanks to the commission and to the citizens of Buncombe County. We play. Our games are open to the public. Come and watch next year. The national champion, Warren Wilson Owls, will be competing to defend the title. And this was a great event for the entire campus that came out in sport. These guys, as Anthony suggested, did an incredible job. We're very proud of them. We're proud of the whole athletic program at Warren Wilson. And I can tell you that just this weekend, the Warren Wilson canoe and kayak team came back with the national intercollegiate championship as well. So we think
We'll
they
invite you back,
represent the best in the sport.
National champions get our attention.
So thank you to the commission for this honor. We really appreciate it at the school.
Thank you. Why don't each one of you guys go through and give your name and your what year you are, just as you go, and there's we'll vote on our motion. Just a minute.
Name and year.
My name is James Rayshawn Love, and I'm a senior.
And why don't you say where you're from too, James?
I hail from Burlington, North Carolina.
Okay.
My name is Chris Dillard. I'm a freshman, and I'm from Williamsburg, Virginia.
My name is Dylan Johnson. I'm a senior also, and I come from Wilkesboro, North Carolina.
My name is KJ Walton. I am a freshman, and I'm from Asheville, North Carolina.
My name is Danilo Radonic, and I'm a freshman from Montenegro.
Hi, my name is Timur Oktay. I'm from Turkey. I'm a junior.
I'm Rashad Ali. I'm a junior, and I'm from Chicago, Illinois.
All right.
My name is Anthony Behringer. I'm a senior, and I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina.
My name is Ty Johnson, and I'm a sophomore from Wilkesboro, North Carolina.
Yeah, it's from Wilkesboro.
My name is Justin Gagne, and I'm a freshman, and I am from Warren, North Carolina.
My name is Tyler Triplett. I'm from Morganton, North Carolina, and I'm a freshman.
My name is Matt Kinder, first year assistant coach, and I'm from Texas.
My name is Tiger Norman. I'm from Asheville, North Carolina, and I'm interim head coach and assistant coach.
Very nice.
Very good.
All right, give it up for the national champions. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate you coming. President, thank you. Is there a motion is by Commissioner Newman? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Frost. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We have adopted the proclamation.
Very cool.
Best wishes, guys. A lot of underclassmen there. Sounds good. All over the world. Wide roster. That's great. We're proud to have you in our community, guys. You did us good. All right. Next up, we have child support or child abuse prevention proclamation. Ask Mr. McGuire to come up, and we'll have Commissioner King give the presentation. We also have Dawn Warren. Becky Kessel is also here, and we'll have them after the presentation. Come up.
On behalf of Buncombe County Commissioners, the Buncombe County Proclamation of Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas the problem of child abuse and neglect affects many Buncombe County's children and has reached epidemic proportions in North Carolina, with over 125,000 children reported abused and neglected last year. Whereas last year the Buncombe County Department of Social Services received 2,362 reports of child abuse and neglect, including 3,985 children. Whereas preventing child abuse and neglect is the responsibility of all citizens, and whereas every child has a right to a safe, healthy, nurturing environment, whereas community action is needed to help prevent child abuse so all children can have the opportunity to reach their potential, and whereas it is vital that we join forces with the Child Protection Team of Buncombe County and Child Abuse Prevention Services, Inc., to reach out to our parents and children to prevent child abuse and neglect, and to strengthen and assist families and children who have experienced abuse. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Buncombe as follows: that the month of April 2013 has proclaimed Child Abuse Prevention Month in Buncombe County. That this board does hereby call upon every citizen to join the child protection organizations, groups, and individuals in observance of the month with appropriate programs and activities. That this proclamation be effective upon its adopted this the second day of April 2013. Board of Commissioners of Buncombe County.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been a motion by Commissioner King, second by Vice Chair Jones. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Mr. McGuire, come talk to us. We had a great ceremony at noon. Thank you for having us.
Well, I was going to say, I feel so fortunate to live here in Buncombe County, these beautiful mountains, this basketball team, you folks up there. And today I was really fortunate. This is the second time I get to see Chairman Gadd and Commissioner Frost and Sheriff Duncan all in one day. Unfortunately, we still have this. The numbers are still staggering, but it's everywhere. It's not just Asheville, Buncombe, it's everywhere. Abuse literally crosses all lines and knows no boundaries. The numbers are still staggering, but the successes are many, whether it's children in our school-based prevention program who learn to avoid or get out of an abusive situation, or whether it's a child who raises their hand and discloses abuse and gets immediate help, crisis intervention counseling. All the good things happening at DSS under Mandy Stone, Angie Pittman, Becky Kessel, all the good folks at DSS. Good things going on always at the Sheriff's Office. The correlation between, animal control, animal welfare and child welfare, which Commissioner Frost has worked on too. We're really excited in April. We're kicking off a new program, Stewards of Children. It's a child sexual abuse prevention training for adults. And really the neat thing about it, we're going to start this with all 100 Buncombe County school counselors and school social workers. And then we hope to go on to the YW too. And I can't think of two better groups to start that with, so we're really excited about that. Real quickly, a couple of things. April, if you'd like to come out, Friday, April 12th, Blue Ribbon Night at the Tourist. We'll be there giving out blue ribbons and taking the field before the game. Mm-hmm. April 17th, 6 o'clock at the United Way building, the film Searching for Angela Shelton. Angela Shelton's an Asheville native, a film screenwriter and documentary film producer who hopped in an RV and drove around the country for a year on her journey. The idea originally was just to search for other Angela Sheltons. As her journey progressed, she was amazed to find out how many of them had also experienced child sexual abuse. She then confronted her father on the journey, her abuser, and it kind of ends on a positive note with her triumph over her childhood sexual abuse. April 20th in Black Mountain, beautiful Lake Tomahawk, Paws for Kids, walking together to protect children and animals. Commissioner Frost is going to cut the big blue ribbon to start the walk. Thank you all so much. We appreciate it. Y'all are terrific. We appreciate your support.
Thank you for all you
Don
do.
Warren with DSS.
Thank you, Don. Come on up and tell us about CCPT.
Hi, Commissioner, Chairman Gant, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak for just a few minutes. I'm Dawn Warren. I'm one of the program administrators with Buncombe County Health and Human Services, and I'm also the chair of the Community Child Protection Team and the Child Fatality Prevention Team. These are teams that were established by the legislature in 1991 to look at the impact of child abuse and neglect in our current CPS cases, and the Child Fatality Prevention Team reviews all child fatalities of children under the age of 18, regardless of their circumstances, to look at system issues to see if there are things that we can be doing as a community to help better serve these families. This year, we've had a very active team. We meet every month. We're comprised of individuals from 15 service agencies, law enforcement, district attorneys' offices, very faithful attenders at these meetings, which we're very grateful for. Again, we review all the child fatalities. This year we reviewed 19 fatalities. 7 of these were for premature birth issues or birth defect issues. 2 were from SIDS, 2 were from asphyxiation, 1 drug overdose, 3 motor vehicle accidents, 3 homicides, and 1 household accident.
Goodness gracious.
Some of the issues that we've identified, we also review open child protective services cases that are presented by social workers and supervisors where they have some kind of systemic issue that we think maybe perhaps this team can help us address. Some of the issues that we've identified through both of these sets of reviews are the continued need for parent education on safe sleeping, that the need for reporting of abuse or neglect for children under the age of 6, the impact of substance abuse by parents on their children, and the impact of children's own substance abuse on their own health. Some of the strategies that we've looked at this year to try to help meet these and some other needs that we've come up with is we've sponsored a table at the Pause for Kids event last year, and we're doing that again this year to help get the word out about in the community about reporting abuse and neglect. We had some child protection team members who attended a training on child death scene investigations, which, as unfortunate as those circumstances are, the best thing our community can do when that happens is to have a coordinated approach with law enforcement and child protective services to make sure we have the best information possible. And we've also this year worked in conjunction with the Buncombe County Health and Human Services on an under 6 campaign for reporting abuse and neglect specifically on children under 6, which Becky Kessel is going to talk to you about a little bit further here in just a minute. So I'd like to thank you for your continued support of these teams and of the child abuse and neglect efforts in this community.
Thank you, Dawn. It's wonderful work. Wish we didn't have to do it, but since we do, we want to get all the information we can. Becky Kessel is going to give a update on the evolution of the Under 6 campaign, and will describe our latest efforts and the grant we've got. Becky, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the good job you do.
Thank you to Chairman Gant and the Board of Commissioners members and Dr. Green and the guests. I'm really happy to be here today. I have the opportunity to follow up on some of the very grim statistics that Dawn and Bill McGuire talked about, and want to first start out with how we get information on some of the things that we do to help improve our community. So basically, in 2012, we had a series of community listening sessions and found out that how people really get their information, they turn to their neighbors, their friends, their faith community. These listening sessions were held throughout various sectors of the community, including Arden, Emma, Anka Candler, Otine, Shiloh, Weaverville, and we had 45 participants who actually showed, and then there were an additional 297 respondents who were surveyed by phone. So that was a really good way to get to what the 5 top strengths are for each community, and to ask people about where do you go when you need help or support, what kinds of reasons bring you to different organizations in your community, what's the best way to receive information, and then how do we improve our service provision. So when we find out what our community said is people want to know about health and human services, and they want to be able to get the information from the people that they turn to, and that we have citizens who can't afford medical care or have difficulty either accessing or locating services. So this led to the development of a program to make sure that we have choices in our community, because what we know is that safety and health and well-being starts in schools, it starts in neighborhoods, it starts with families, and we want everyone to have the opportunity to make those choices that lead them to health and safety and well-being. And we want to focus on how people get information rather than deciding that we can come out and simply share information. We want to use those networks that folks have. So I'm having great difficulty, there we go, with there. Okay. So, as part of the community listening sessions, what we found out is that people want to have folks in their community that they know and they trust that can help connect them with the different citizens with health and human services. There's a wide array of opportunities that are out there to help them with safety and health and well-being outcomes. And when we partner with agencies that are in communities like Swannanoa Valley Christian Ministries, Pisgah View Apartments, the Asheville Buncombe Institute for Parity Achievement, and Changing Together, that we can make a real difference. So instead of having folks within human services, what we've done is partner with different agencies and utilize a service model that relies on trust of where people get information. And that result is community service navigators. So we have the 3 service navigators on the ground now, with an additional one coming up with a BIPA, and these are folks who are trained in what's available through Health and Human Services and can really get into communities and ask folks, what is it that you need and how can we help you make sure that you have access to services and information to support your family and outcomes. And so one of the things that's a recent grant that we received through the Division of Public Health is called Triple P. And this is a 3-year grant that is evidence-based, and that means that it has a demonstrated theory of change, that there are random controlled trials where people are assigned, and shows actual change based on the structure of the program. And the Triple P program has 5 different levels that ranges all the way from community awareness down to much more intensive types of parenting support services. Jerry Rice earlier talked about how the incidence of autism affects our community, and certainly children with special health care needs are much more at risk of abuse or neglect. And so this Triple P grant focuses on children under the age of 6 because, as Dawn Warren said, half of all of our fatalities, well, over half, actually 82% of our fatalities since 2003 have been in children under the age of 6 years old, and half of all children in our community that are abused or neglected are under the age of 6. And this also ties in very clearly with our community health assessment priority area around early childhood development and improving child health. So it's very much a focused effort across the community in health and human services. So we've received a grant for 3 years and have lots of partnerships in the community to help us implement. We're in the planning phases right now. It will complement things such as nurse-family partnership, work in conjunction with Smart Start, our mental health system, community resources like FIRST, MAHEC, RHA, and ARP, and really build on what we already have in place. So we're very excited about that. Okay. So, as I mentioned, we have a lot of partnerships, and then this also leads us to the next portion, which is to really talk about the Under 6 campaign. And what I have with me are posters that we are going to be rolling out in conjunction with the Community Child Protection Team that really looks at the face of children that are under the age of 6 and gives some very startling statistics that I talked about the incidence of half of all abused and neglected children are under the age of 6. So it's a real call to action to our communities so that parents understand that they have support, that community agencies and community members know what they can do to make sure that they are aware of the laws around reporting abuse and neglect. So we're really looking forward to rolling these out, and we have 2 more. One really talks about the stressful aspect of parenting. I'm sure many parents in the room have walked in on crayons and all kinds of messes with their children. And so we're very excited to have this opportunity. And we actually in the development got input from 52 individuals about the demo of the posters. What do you see that you like about this? Is this an actual call to action to you? Because it's very important to have people understand that we just want to raise awareness as well as provide services to support. So their input is critical. And the Mother Love program at the YWCA, Pisgah View Apartments, Valley Child Development, and families actually receiving prevention services gave the input on the posters. And we have Spanish and Russian translations that are underway as well. So we are going to be working with the Community Child Protection Team on all the elements of the campaign, on how we get the posters out, have the opportunity to assess what our efforts are, the education available in the community, such as Triple P, Nurse Family Partnership, and then what kinds of formal and informal supports can we make sure that we link parents to. This number right here, 250-6000, is a resource line where parents can call and get referrals to services that might help them if they're struggling just with everyday stresses as well as the more intensive kinds of crises that families sometimes find themselves facing. So we're very excited about that. And then basically when it boils right down to it, we're talking about building protective factors with families, because we want to make sure that parents are resilient to be able to cope with whatever they're facing, that they have plenty of social connections to support them, that concrete support is always there for them, anything from being able to locate housing to employment services, and that they understand the difficult job of parenting and the child development needs that their children have that sometimes causes them to write on themselves with crayons or markers or paint. And that children also have opportunities to develop social and emotional competencies, that they can have the kinds of parent and siblings and families and neighborhood support to be able to help them be healthy and thriving. So, when we get right down to it, the very last slide shows that this relates back to so many things that the county is doing with our sustainability plan, that we're really looking on access to services, that we want healthy citizens, healthy environments, we want safe, low-crime communities, and that these initiatives tie in to help us achieve that safety, health, and well-being. So it's a great opportunity to speak to the public and to the commissioners that we are absolutely on top of this, and we appreciate the chance to come before you and demonstrate our next steps.
Becky, thank you so much. You've come before us many times, and you've always given us great hope in what you're doing, and thank you. You've been a wonderful leader.
Thank you.
This is a remarkable campaign. Y'all have worked hard to get to a launching place, and I think it's really well done. So, going to help a lot of people.
Next up, we have Smart Justice Month, and Commissioner Belcher, you want to do the presentation?
Yes, sir.
I think we have Kim Gordon here, Director of Pre-Trial Release, Major Glenn Mayabas, Sheriff Duncan. I didn't see our DAs or Leanne Melton, didn't see her, no DAs, but we got the law enforcement and the pretrial release. Thank you so much for coming, gentlemen, lady. Commissioner?
County of Buncombe proclamation of Smart Justice Month. Whereas the nation's 3,069 counties provide a variety of essential public services to communities serving more than 300 million Americans, and whereas Buncombe County and all counties take pride in their responsibility to protect and enhance the health, welfare, and safety of its residents in sensible and cost-effective ways, and whereas county governments are often the entity providing both direct and indirect services to enhance the lives of residents and are responsible for maintaining public safety, and the efficient use of local tax dollars. And whereas currently more than 13 million individuals are booked into county jails each year, and more than 700,000 individuals are booked into state and federal prisons. And whereas the National Association of Counties is encouraging counties to promote effective community corrections programs across the country through this 2012-2013 Smart Justice Initiative, and whereas Buncombe County supports the agencies, departments, and services providing justice and protecting the public safety and welfare of Buncombe County citizenry, and whereas Buncombe County provides support of programs that focus on the underlying casualties of criminal behavior, ultimately reducing recidivism and assisting individuals in becoming productive members of our community. And whereas the programs such as pretrial services, just jail diversion, SOAR court, adult drug court, and the Justice Resource Center work closely with the offices of the 28th Judicial District and the Sheriff's Department in creating a more efficient and effective criminal justice system. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners for the County of Buncombe as follows. Number one, that the month of April be proclaimed Smart Justice Month in Buncombe County. Number two, that all Buncombe County be encouraged to learn more about the criminal justice and court programs in Buncombe County. And number three, that this proclamation be effective upon its adopted this second day of April 2013, Board of Commissioners for the County of Buncombe, signed by David Gant, Chairman. Congratulations. Thank you so much.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Belcher, second by Commissioner Frost. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Thank you. Kim and Sheriff and Major, if y'all would like to say a few words.
Hi. I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we have planned for the month of April to celebrate Smart Justice Month. We're going to begin tweeting and putting on Facebook some interesting facts about the different programs throughout our court system and our criminal justice system. And further on in the month, we'll be playing some videos on BCTV, a jail diversion video that we produced last year that Buncombe County TV did for us. And then we're also going to film a video next week just from the point of entry of arrest through the jail and through the court system. And we'll be showing that on TV just to provide some education to our citizens about what happens if you become involved in the court system. And then on April 20th, we're planning a Smart Justice Fair that will be held in Lot 1, adjacent to the detention center. And we're going to have representatives from the different programs in the criminal justice system who will be there to hand out information. And we hope to have some balloons and maybe some giveaways for the public, and just to educate people about what they need to do and what they need to know about our system. And I'd like to take this opportunity just to make a couple of comments. I've worked for Buncombe County for almost 20 years in pretrial services, and during that time I've had an opportunity to interact with professionals in similar agencies across our state and also nationally, and two things have always stood out for me. And that's how lucky I am to work in Buncombe County, where we're so supported in trying to address substance abuse and mental health, because that really is the two major issues that bring people into our jails. And the issue of criminality and criminogenic thinking, people who only have that issue are the minority of the population in our jail. So if we can address the mental health and the substance abuse issues, then we can really make an impact on the numbers that we have coming through our jail and the numbers that we have coming through repeatedly. And the second thing that I'd like to mention is how lucky we are that we have a group of people in our criminal justice system that work so well together. And we do that through our Justice Advisory Group. We meet every other month, and we plan new initiatives. We discuss problems that we're having, and we brainstorm ways to work through those. And we've been recognized by several national agencies for just the personal commitment that we have with our criminal justice professionals to address these issues and to follow through with putting programs in place. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Sheriff?
just want to thank the commissioners for recognizing the hard work that's being done, and we really do appreciate that. It means a lot to us, and it means a lot to the folks who are carrying out those duties every day. So thank you.
Well, Sheriff, between you three, you know, all the programs where you recognize mentally ill people that don't need to be in jail but need mental health, substance abuse, as Kim's talked about, drug problems, you know, I think we appreciate you getting to the root of the problems, because if we just warehouse them, we haven't really gained a lot, and I appreciate your proactive approach. And the other thing I want to say about this is it impresses me that we have law enforcement, pretrial, public defender, district attorney all working together and agreeing that we need to really watch this and take a look at it. So I don't think that happens in many communities. I think there are probably some public defenders and DAs that don't even talk to each other. And I'm glad we have that, and I appreciate y'all creating the atmosphere where you can have this type dialogue so that we don't overburden the jails, yet we keep people in jail that need to be there. So thank you all. All right. Next we have public hearing. Scott Rogers, John Creighton's going to tell us about the request here. Reverend Rogers, good to see you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, board members, come tonight to talk about a rezoning from R1 to neighborhood service at 1359 U.S. Highway 1923. Scott Rogers is an applicant to rezone 2 lots totaling 1.78 acres from R1, which is a single-family residential district, to NS, which is neighborhood services. PIN number 8697-73-6467, which is 0.93 acres, and PIN number 8697-73-4449 is 0.085 acres. Judy, can I have first slide there, please? Go back one, please. Yes. The lots are located in the southeast corner of the intersection of Gossett Road and Smoky Park Highway, which is Highway US 1923. Both lots are currently vacant. The surrounding area is comprised of mixed use, including residential uses, commercial uses along Smoky Park Highway. Could I have slide 3? There we go. So this shows the different uses. Basically, the yellow is single-family residential. You have brown, which is vacant, and then the red shows commercial, and the light fuchsia or purple is neighborhood services. While residential uses directly adjoin the subject property, commercial uses zone commercial services and neighborhood services lie to the east and west of the commercial property or the subject property. And that'd be the next slide, Judy, please. So you can tell that, okay, being this is vacant, there are a variety of uses in the area, being single family, commercial service, and neighborhood services. The requested zoning is consistent with Buncombe County Comprehensive Land Use Plan, and as update indicates, neighborhood service is designed to allow for a mix of residential, commercial, business, and services used in limited areas and key intersections leading to residential neighborhoods. The requested neighborhood service zoning would be reasonable and in the interest, and it would allow for commercial business in the area that allows a wide variety of commercial uses and is consistent with the property currently zoned NS to the northwest of the subject property on Smoky Park Highway. The Buncombe County Planning Department recommends approval as requested. On March 18th, 2013, the Planning Board held a public hearing. During the public comment, 2 people spoke against the rezoning and 3 people spoke for the rezoning. Those against were mainly concerned that the proposed facility would become a homeless shelter and would bring drug and alcohol abuse to the area. Those that spoke in favor of the zoning felt that it was appropriate given the mixed use in the area and thought it was proposed facility would benefit the area. The Planning Board found that the proposed rezoning would be consistent with the land use plan, reasonable, and in the public interest, and the area has mixed commercial uses along Smoky Park Highway and the NS District to the northwest of the property. The Planning Board recommended approval of the rezoning to neighborhood service in a vote of 6-1. So if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them before we let the public speak.
I have a question, Mr. Creighton.
Sure.
To answer the question for the two people who were concerned about homeless shelter, that would have to be there'd have to be an approval for that beyond what we're getting ready to do for that to happen, would it not?
When we got into some place where people would spend the night, any type of facility, you would get into a commercial. In my opinion, you get into a commercial service versus a neighborhood.
Okay.
A neighborhood service basically is like a professional service. There's set hours that would be open, and there would be a set close. Yes, sir.
And on a neighborhood service, you can have that at the frontage of like 1923, and with residential behind it is okay as long as it doesn't restrict or create a lot of traffic problems for the people behind it. Isn't that pretty much part of NS?
Yeah, it's more of a, like I say, when a neighborhood service and commercial services, the variance there is that it's more, in the commercial service, it's more of an intense use. You'd have outdoor sales in a commercial service where you wouldn't in a neighborhood service. You would have things that would go on for longer periods of time, maybe overnight, those kind of things, where a neighborhood service, like I say, has pretty much a set, okay, it's open in the morning and it closes in the evening.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Creighton? Urban Rogers, do you have any comments before
Do you want to open the public hearing?
Let me go ahead and hear from him, then I'll do public comment.
Chairman Gant and county commissioners and county manager and staff, thank you again for this opportunity. Last year, ABCCM's Hominy Valley Crisis Ministry, which is currently located right next door to Hominy Baptist Church, served about 1,800 families, which represented about 4,700 different men, women, and children. They provided just thousands of bags of food and clothes, but one important number I want you to hear is that these 26 churches that own this part of ABCCM's ministry raised $114,000 and distributed it in emergency assistance. We matched that, if you will, through our wonderful partnership with you, with Buncombe County, through emergency assistance called the Crisis Intervention Program, and they gave away an additional $173,000. I want you to hear that. Over $300,000 in emergency assistance was distributed. Now, I want you to hear another part of this, because this all started in the year 2000 when the Reverend Dr. Joe Yelton and a group of pastors from the valley came to me and said, we want to start meeting the critical needs of our families out here. And I said, are you sure? Because it takes an awful lot to do that. And Hominy Baptist Church contributed the facility that made that possible. Now, a year and a half ago, this little new Methodist minister, Jay Bissett, came to me and said, we want to do more. And we want to expand more. And he got, again, Reverend Dr. Joe Yelton on the phone and said, we want to meet and talk about the churches want to do more out here. Now, this is right in the middle of the recession, folks. And I said, are you guys sure? This is the worst time to try to raise money and build a bigger barn. I mean, it's a famine out there. No, our people in the valley are hurting. When we talked about how big this would be, Reverend Jay Bissett had already gone to Duke Endowment and put in an application. I haven't even touched this. First time I've ever not touched a grant application, okay? And he came back to us last summer, and he said, I think Duke will do $150,000 if we can find the right place. We put it out to our volunteers, and one couple came to us with this piece of property that you've seen before you and said, we're willing to contribute this piece of property. Now, another piece of this story is another family had come to me all the way back in around 2000, 2001 and said, Reverend Rogers, we want to pray for a clinic out here. I said, well, we've got this nice free clinic downtown in Asheville at Livingston Street, and will you support that? And then they said, sure, and they gave a very substantial gift and have supported ABCCM right along. But every couple of years, and this couple is at Harmony Baptist, they would pull Dr. Yelton and I together and say, we're still praying for a clinic. We want you to pray for this. Now, folks, when I told them that God was bringing together all the Methodists, now the district Methodist churches, all of them in the valley, have signed off on this Duke endowment for this expansion. And it just blows my mind. And I'm sorry, but most of the preachers are away today on vacation because they just had Holy Week. And I pulled one guy out of his vacation, and that's Dr. Joe Yelton. I'd like to, if you would indulge me, allow him a couple of minutes to share a little bit about the rest of this story. And Dr. Joe Yelton, would you please come and just share a minute or two?
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I am Joe Yelton, Hominy Baptist Church, and we are excited that we have ABCCM with a direct entity in our valley. And because of that, you've already heard some of the numbers, but just a few of them of the magnificent impact this ministry makes. Presently, the ministry meets in a 3-story house, that is 2 stories above ground in a full basement. I don't know what the average age of the volunteers are who are there, but I'm sure it's in the 70s. Magnificent men and women who dedicate dozens and dozens of hours every month. Many of those hours are climbing up and down those stairs. It's been a great place to get this ministry started. For 12 years, they have served beyond every imaginable dream I had of what might take place there. But the reality is it has now expanded beyond the ability of that house to take care of it. There is far more that needs to be done, and it simply can't be done there. I believe I'm absolutely correct in telling you this, that in the 12 years that ABCCM has had this continuous 5-day-a-week ministry at that church, not once, not one time, have the Buncombe County Sheriff's Department been called and asked to come and intervene in a situation. Now, that's not to say it couldn't happen tomorrow or next week, or if you approve this, it wouldn't happen at the new location. It is to say that the people who come to this ministry understand that we are here to assist and help them where they are, and they're there to genuinely receive that help and try to get a leg up on doing better. And they've done that. And we have seen countless families not only survive a hard winter or be able to have a little bit more for their families in a time of great depletion. We've also seen the spirit of the community increase. We've seen the churches come together in different ways, and we've also seen individuals in the community step forward and do things. I fully appreciate the concern of the neighbors that would be immediately around this new project. That is so understandable. I don't in any way hesitate to appreciate those concerns. But I truly believe that the history will bear out that this will be a very good neighbor to them, and they'll be glad to have this ministry set right there where it is, and largely it will not have an impact. I do know that right around our neighborhood, where the church is, we purchased this property in 1999, and in 2000 made it available to ABCCM, and they jumped right on that, God bless them. I do know that when that property opened at that place, there was no sellout of people in the community. No houses started being left to neglect. In fact, new homes have been built in the community. Houses have been renovated. I don't know what the property values are since they have all tumbled in recent years, but I am sure that ABCCM has not caused in any way a significant decline in property value of those houses that are around it. I'm very excited about this idea. I think it's going to work. And I thank you very much for your time. If you had specific questions, I would take them, but just thank you for this moment.
All right, Dr. Yelton, thank you.
Let me close out the brief miracle with this. On August 17th at 8:04 p.m., a young doctor, Dr. Eric Smith, who's a resident at Mayheck, emailed me and said, "My wife and I are committed to opening and being a missionary for ABCCM to open a charitable clinic." When I called the family that had been praying about this for 12 years, they were so ecstatic that they said the day we close on this property, they will give a gift of $500,000. I just tell you that I've not been a part, well, I shouldn't say that. I've been a part of a lot of miracles of how things have come together. Veterans Quarters was another one. But I'm just sharing with you, our request doesn't come to you lightly. It comes with a lot of prayer and folks hoping to bring that kind of care. We're not opening a shelter. It's nowhere in the future because that's not where the need is. The need is with our families in the valley. Mayheck is now a partner with us in this so that we will open the first integrated crisis ministry services for the basic necessities with a charitable clinic, and we're excited. So that's the rest of the story, and that's what's behind our request to bring what we hope is the best neighborhood services to Inca Candler, Avery's Creek, and Hominy Valley. Thank you.
All right, Reverend Rogers, thank you. Any questions before we start our public hearing?
I'd just like to say thank you, Dr. Yelton. I know I accosted you in your parking lot last week. Thank you for coming. I knew you were going on vacation. I'm glad to see you here. Thank you.
Okay, anything else before we start our public hearing? If not, I have 5:34. Any members of the public wish to be heard on this application for zoning request? Yes, sir, Mr. Ditmore.
I'm Alan Ditmore of Old 20 in Leicester. This is really a pathetic day, and this is just the kind of situation that I fought against zoning, tooth and nail for years, because I never wanted to see this happen. I never wanted to see charities having to kneel before government, begging permission for what they have an absolute right to do without asking. And if it was a homeless shelter, here it's not a homeless shelter, but if they were to change their mind and have a homeless shelter, they would still have an absolute right without asking. It is not a charity's job to preserve the property values in the neighborhood. The R1 zone, its establishment in the first place was an act of barbarism. It prevents frugal people from sharing a wall in a duplex. That's the most restrictive one. Again, I don't have my references, but R1's the most restrictive, more restrictive than R3, right? So you can't have duplexes, you can't share a wall, so you can't have heat, you can't have, it creates sprawl, forces people to drive places, burning gas involuntarily. And the political alignment that caused this was really shocking to me. So anyway, approve this, but keep in mind that you should be doing so much more.
Thank you, Mr. Ditmore. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone after this lady? Okay. Jerry, okay. You start coming up.
Hello. It's going to be hard to follow this, but I am one against the zoning. I live in the neighborhood on Fairmont Road, and one of the...
Let me get your name. And
my name is Patricia Colgrove.
Thank you, Ms. Colgrove.
And the NS, it means that you're talking about add to traffic congestion. Fairmont Road is a very heavily trafficked road. Candler Elementary is right down the street from us, so we have school buses and parents, all the time. We are the shortcut to Inca High School that leads to Inca High School. So we have the high school students, taking our road all the time. It's very, very heavily trafficked. I don't care that they have, what they want there. I just don't want it zoned commercial. If they leave, what happens to our neighborhood? Who knows what they're going to put in there? There is an R3 residential district, R3, I think, which has maybe conditions with it. If they could be zoned R3 and not commercial, I don't think that would be a problem. But once you zone them commercial for what they want, there's no going back to our residential. We have a very wonderful residential neighborhood, and where they want to put it, there are side streets that would lead directly, that will come off of Fairmont Road, and it would just add, a lot more traffic to it. And yes, they did have their ABCCM down there by the Baptist Church and by Candler Elementary School. But there wasn't that many people there, and their hours of operation are going to be as long as what they have now. I can walk to Candler Elementary School from my house. I have stopped at the ABCCM to leave clothing and things off, and there wasn't anybody there to accept my, my clothing, my bags of clothes. But this will be longer operational hours, and I'm afraid that it's going to add so much more traffic to our heavily trafficked street as it is. So if we could, not put it commercial, I think that would be wonderful if there was another way to do this. Because if they leave, then we're stuck. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Colgrave. Mr. Rice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is my community. This is where I live. And Candler is noted for a lot of services, and particularly with Department of Social Service. And I think seeing that the churches are doing such a good job and the pastors and all coming out, I think that's the key to limiting government. I do think the zoning part is a problem. I think we need to look at ways to integrate and not have to have people come up here and do this that we're having to see today. But I'm glad to see the church is actively involved. My dad was a pastor for 73 years, and what we are hearing today, we practiced what we preached. We got out there and helped folks just like this right here. And we didn't ask government for it. It was, come on, boys, let's go. We got to help the neighbors out. So it wasn't nothing about money and all this stuff. It was about soul searching and doing something good for your neighbor. And I'm happy to welcome this into our community. There might be restrictions on paper, but, a man's soul is worth more than anything we can do. So if we can help one, we've done it all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any other public comment on this zoning reclassification? Yes, sir, an orange shirt. Yellow shirt.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I'm Bill Newell. I live in Candler. I live close to this property, and I got to speak in favor of it. I think it's a desperate need. This is going to be a somewhat medical facility, and we have people in our community that cannot afford to go to a doctor, and I think it's going to be a wonderful thing. I think it will add to the beauty of our community, and I'd like to tell you why. On the west end of this property, there's a real ugly construction company. On the east end, there's some real nice apartment houses. Less than 100 yards away, there's a beer joint. There's 2 churches across the road from us, which is nice. And I think this is going to dress up the community. Plus, there's just a great need for it, and I hope you get it in there. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Newell. Any other public comment tonight? Yes, sir.
My name's Matthew Colgrove. I'm with Patricia over here. I also live on Fairmont Road. And I had the pleasure of working with a lady that volunteers for the ABCCM. And just the people that she told me that she had to deal with on a daily basis, I don't think need to be in the community. You're going to have, the people that can't afford it, that's fine. If they're elderly, that's fine as well. But when you start bringing in, the drug abusers, and you're not fixing that problem and you're having them come in, we've got nephews on our road. And like she said, I've had one accident on our road because of somebody speeding down the road right now. And like she said, as the traffic's going right now, there's just no way to do it. The speed limit on one end is coming 35, the other side's coming 45, but when they're coming through, it's like 55 and 60.
Wow.
So I don't know if maybe they're willing to fix that to where they can't access our road. Maybe they can only access Fairmont Road, but I just don't think it needs to be here. We've had some problems with theft in the neighborhood. I don't see bringing that kind of element into the neighborhood would help that situation any. Stuff's getting stolen right out front of the house, sitting right in front of the yard. I know the barber shop right down the street. He said 2 people have broken into his shed and stolen over $200,000 worth of equipment of his, construction equipment, building equipment, and the cops can't do anything about that. So I just would like to think that we don't want to add to that problem in the community. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Holbrook. Any other public comment? If not, I'll declare the public hearing portion of this closed at 5:45. Mr. Creighton?
I guess at this point, if you have any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Would you address the one of the concerns that was raised about the commercial versus NS, the difference? I think we did that. Commissioner King asked a question.
We get R3 would not allow the use that we're talking about here. Like say, the neighborhood service is obviously a lot less intense than the commercial service is more intense than the neighborhood service. There's no way that we can restrict which way you access the property. The property sits on 1923. I think for the most part, people will come up Smoky Park Highway and access the property. Unless I live on Fairmont or, back in that neighborhood there, I don't see any reason why people would come and use this facility by a shortcut through that neighborhood.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
In the planning request, was there any numbers of volume, number of people we would be seeing going through the clinic?
No, Scott, would you mind answering that?
Yeah, the volumes right now are about 25 in the mornings is a heavy day for us. So, if we just factor in roughly 50 a day being a heavy day, the clinical practice could only see about 40 a day, and that would be a very heavy day for a physician. So.
Okay. And Reverend Rogers, you and I have already had this conversation.
Yes, sir.
He's been very good about indulging me. We've had an ongoing dialogue, and also with Dr. Yelton. We talked about the patients that would be here, and this is Medicaid patients. This is not methadone. It's not any drug use, this type of thing.
No, sir. No, this is a family practice clinic. It's in partnership with Mayheck. I think we're all very familiar with Mayheck's family practices. This physician is simply trying to make medicine available not only to uninsured but low-income families as well as paying families. We've all heard about the shortage that is already we're facing in Buncombe County. Mission Hospital, our partner in the clinic, tells us we are currently 28 physicians short, which is why just moving into the Candler community, folks may have a struggle with finding a physician. We're hoping to remedy that.
I've got some comments that I live out in that area, and I'm very familiar with the ministry of Hominy Baptist, and Chairman Gant and Commissioner King and myself had the privilege of going out and attending your 200th anniversary, and so I know that you'll be there for a long time. And I too, as Jerry said, am encouraged that community and the churches would come together in something as big as this. I also had the opportunity recently, Chairman Gant went out and revisited the Candler area with me, and we went into some of the areas, and I intend to wholeheartedly support this. I think I'm not a big-time fan of zoning either, but I'd just soon church be able to go and build what you want to and serve your community and work hard. But I don't think that the NS is going to be a problem in this area. I think it's going to be in accordance with the land use plan, and so at some point in time I'd like to make a motion to support this.
Motion by Commissioner Belcher.
I'd like to make another comment. Since
Okay.
We've had some number of people talk about they live in the area. I also live in the area. As a crow flies, I live less than half a mile from this location. I'm very familiar with it, just as concerned as anyone else who lives in that area. Dr. Yelton has been very good at indulging me, so has Reverend Rogers. It is a concern. I believe me, I wore them out asking questions. I did not want this to be another Canterbury Hills. And so I have spent a good bit of time investigating this. I feel certain that it's a good project, that we as neighbors, and I mean, I could walk there in 5 minutes from my house, that this will not be a neighborhood problem. I have their assurance this is not going to be housing with drug users. There will be no overnight stays because, believe me, it's a problem for me if that is the element that is there. So I feel very comfortable with this project. Thank you.
Commissioner Belcher, could I ask that in your motion, could you also state that the proposed rezoning would be consistent with the land use plan, reasonable, and in the public interest?
Yes, if I can remember all that.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve this, and that it's in accordance with the current land use plan and what's the
and reasonable in the public interest.
And it's reasonable in the public interest. I'd also like to echo my colleagues' concerns about that area over there. There are some issues about shortcuts down where you live. I mean, I use one of them, and that, and maybe we can look at and talk to the Sheriff Duncan and look at some things. When we've asked them to do that, they've been pretty helpful on it. So hopefully we'll be able to look at that, and certainly those concerns are definitely not going to fall on deaf ears with us, I'm sure. So I'd like to make that motion. Thank you.
I'll second it.
It's been a motion by Commissioner Belcher, a second by Commissioner Frost. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Next up, we have under new business. Well, do we have a county manager's report? I forgot to ask that in new business. We have Ironman competition. We have Ben VanCamp here. Thank you, Mr. VanCamp. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I have a PowerPoint that if we could put up on the screen. 2.5 years ago, when the Sports Commission was founded in partnership with Buncombe County, it was really for things like this. This is a pretty bittersweet day for us when Ironman, one of the largest triathlon companies and adventure racing companies in the world, calls us and says, hey, we want to think about bringing an event to your community because we've heard the good things that you're doing, and we think you'd be a good partner. So they did call us recently. They came and they visited with us here in town. They've actually been here twice. They were here once before our visit with them, and they came to meet with us and talk through the event with them. They have sent us a request for proposal to review, and we have until the end of this month to respond to that. What is an Ironman? Those of you who aren't familiar, they register 3,000 people for this adventure race in one day. It's a very sought after, highly coveted race. About 2,500 people will show up on race day. It's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and then a full marathon at the end. It's a busy day for these athletes. These are the perfect people to bring to Asheville. If you look at these demographics, you have a high net worth, all but 2% college educated. These are the folks that can come. They can afford to stay in the nicer properties in town. They can afford to be eating out in our restaurants and enjoying our community. These are folks that are going to come in advance to just pre-ride and pre-swim and pre-run these courses. It's going to have a big impact on our folks. In meeting with someone recently, they said that a number of these people will look at buying second homes here. They're that kind of people. They're the perfect people that we want to bring to Asheville.
Ben, did they give you any idea of how many people? You got 3,000 participants, but how much is it? How many people would be in their group? I mean, is it total?
2,500 people.
2,500. Is that in addition to the 3,000, or is that?
No, it's a mass start of 2,500 people. Oh, you mean total?
Yeah, I'm talking
visitors?
about how many people they're going to bring with them.
I think the number will likely be in the 5,000 to 6,000 range. And the interesting thing about that is it's a 3-night minimum stay for those folks. If you want to look at it from a hotel room perspective, it's about 10,000 hotel room nights at a minimum. So if you want to compare that to, say, a Southern Conference, an event we all know and seem to celebrate in the community, this would be roughly 2.5 to 3 times the size of a Southern Conference. They do ask for some, considerations. They're bringing a lot of business to town. They want some room nights for their staff to stay in and things like that. We have plans in place for that. We are looking at September times. They have identified September as a month that they want to have a race in the Carolinas. So we are looking at weekends in early September. We can do that. We want to be on the early side so we don't affect the Citizen Times Marathon that takes place in downtown Asheville and doesn't disrupt streets and traffic patterns back-to-back weekends. We want to be very considerate of that. See a timeline there. We have a proposal due the end of the month. They'll come for site visits, do some negotiations, and hopefully we'll come to an announcement in July. I went through all that. From a marketing perspective and positioning Asheville as this outdoor destination, we're going to be on the short list with Lake Placid, Lake Tahoe, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, these places that are world-renowned as outdoor destinations. Ironman has an international marketing reach, a huge database that will get the Asheville name out there. You cannot find a better partner for us in that regard. So I just want to paint a picture of what it will look like for you. Everything will really be based out of downtown Asheville. They'll have an expo here. There'll be a registration. There'll be a banquet for 2,000 people. That'll likely take place at the U.S. Cellular Center. It's about the only room in town we can feed 2,000 people. And then, obviously, we don't have a body of water in Buncombe County that's capable of the swim. We have bodies of water that are big enough in the length, but don't have the width that we would need for 2,500 people racing at one time. Mm-hmm. So we have partnered with the town of Lake Lure and the community there. They've been very supportive. They're very excited. They host a triathlon already in their community, and they celebrate that. The bike would bring them back to Asheville. We have 112 miles to get them back here on the bicycle. So they will do a warm-up lap around Lake Lure and come up over the Continental Divide back into Asheville, where they'll do 2 laps in and around downtown Asheville. The run is one of the more intensive part from a community host. It's a closed marathon course, so it's a 13-mile course that involves street closures. So there will be some impact there. I want to make sure I point out the negatives of this too, and that'll be a fairly long time. The first runner will come in around 1:30 in the afternoon, and they close the course at midnight. So it's a long closure. I've been working with both the city staff on their streets team and the DOT to find a course that will impact the fewest businesses and residents as possible. And we think we have a pretty good plan in place for that. Iconic finish in downtown Asheville, right in Pack Square. I don't think you can find a prettier spot in town to finish this race at. What that does is it keeps all the spectators, all those plus ones and plus kids and all that downtown, eating and dining and shopping and doing all those things that we love for people to do in our downtown district. So from a community, what does it take? Obviously, we're talking about a lot of police and EMS support. We're talking about a lot of road closures. There's a significant amount of traffic control planning that would have to be done. There's some financial side things, room rebates. We need to provide them an expo area. We need to provide them that banquet space we talked about. And some shuttle buses. We have to get everyone to Lake Lure. We got to move that many people down to Lake Lure. That'll be a significant undertaking. And we would provide them a local volunteer coordinator. That would be a staff member at the Sports Commission that would coordinate the 2,500 plus volunteers it would take to pull this event off. And then there's a financial commitment back to the World Triathlon Corporation, which is the parent body. No, I'm going to skip that. No, sorry, I think I sent you an old one. So here's how it would break down. We're asking for commitments from a lot of different folks to spread the load of this event out. The Sports Commission is going to come in. We're going to raise some sponsorship money. We're going to provide some staff leadership to it. The Buncombe County Tourism Development Authority, they've already stepped up. We met with them 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. So they committed $75,000 immediately up front to help fund this event. They provided a second $75,000 that can be used as matching funds to any support provided by Buncombe County or the City of Asheville. We're going to ask that Lake Lure support this event. They're going to see some impact from this. They're going to have people staying down there. They're going to have people coming to pre-swim down there. It's going to be a nice little boost for their business down there. And we're happy to see that as a regional partner of ours. We're asking for Buncombe County support today for $40,000, and we're asking the city for additional support. So as far as next steps, today we're asking for the commitment from Buncombe County. We then move forward with the city as the last funder, and same with Lake Lure. They have their meeting next week to discuss this. We put together a beautiful proposal that they can't say no to, and then they come to town for a site visit, and we go from there. I've been kind of dreaming and thinking of nothing but sports for the last 2.5 years since I was hired into this role. And always out there was, gosh, it would be really neat if we could host an Ironman, because it is the perfect event for Asheville. This is like Charlotte hosting the Super Bowl, if I can make that analogy for folks. This is the most iconic event that we would probably ever be able to host, and it's one of these opportunities that's probably only going to come up every 15, 20 years or so. And if you want to think about it in just an economic impact standpoint and from an economic development standpoint, this would have an economic impact in this 3 or 4 day span, about $15 million infused into our economy. People staying in hotel rooms, eating out, training, and all the ancillary services that would go along with that. It's a great event for Buncombe County and the City of Asheville. I'm happy to answer any questions, as I imagine there might be a few.
Ben, did I understand that this is if we would get this, it'd be a 5-year commitment?
Yes, and that's one of the wonderful things. This will take. The first year for planning this will be intense, just like it was to plan the Southern Conference or any other major event. Ironman is going to make a significant investment in the community. They donate back about $50,000 to local charities and partners that they have in the community, so they invest back in the community. And for them to go through all that logistical work of planning for these, they ask for a 5-year commitment from a host community to do this. And the interesting thing about that is they have never not renewed one of those agreements. So it's once it becomes part of your community, it's kind of there and part of it. And we've reached out and talked to other communities that have hosted this. I've reached out to other people in the tourism industry and sports commission industry, and they speak very highly of World Triathlon Corporation. And in working with some city staffers and their police department, they have reached out to their counterparts and police departments in those cities that host this event, and they speak incredibly highly of it. So they are as professional as you get, and they are the right partner.
And I think you also said this, but it's my understanding that the registration for this sells out in 24 hours after it's open.
Every Ironman in the United States sells out in less than 24 hours.
Okay.
It's a highly sought after event.
Ben, for clarity, you're just asking for a commitment of $40,000 only if we get the Ironman.
Yes.
You're not asking for funds. Okay, very good.
Yeah.
And that's a 5-year commitment.
Yes.
So, and it's matching from the.
Right.
Not 40 for not 200, but 40, right?
No,
Not
it would need to be
40 per
40
year.
for
5 years.
each year
40
for 5
annually.
years.
Every year.
Yes.
Has
But-
TDA said they would match it, to continue the match for the 5-year period?
That's my understanding.
I believe, yes, that was. I'm just trying to remember the exact wording, but yes, I believe that would be the case. It'd be the matching for that.
And so the idea is that, so it's front-loaded, but y'all kind of spread the cost over the 5 years. Is that how you're thinking about our financial?
No, most of that money is annual operating expenses.
Okay.
You know, I say from a workload, the first year is always a lot more
Workload.
work, but it still is, you know, porta potties and
Yep.
traffic signs
Yep,
and
I got you.
shuttle buses each year.
And so how have y'all kind of put pencil to paper in terms of some of the other costs, because in terms of the fire, police, EMS?
Yes, we have.
And what would that be? How would that impact Buncombe County?
I don't have the numbers right in front of me. Buncombe County is actually the lower of all the partners, just because majority, it's a little higher on the EMS side of things because county has the EMS personnel and city doesn't. I'd have to get you that just because I don't have my notes in front of me on that. I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, you haven't,
Total the event takes,
Because you
I can
would
tell you
remember.
this, total the event takes 200 police officers and 100 EMS personnel. So not all of that would come from Buncombe County. In fact, it'd probably be about 30 or 40 officers for Buncombe County for a day and some EMS personnel as well. We plan to partner with, you know, not all those EMS personnel will come from Buncombe County. We plan to partner with local, you know, Mission Health and regional medical providers that would be able to provide, you know, athletic trainers and doctors and, you know, additional support to that. So I think we will do our best to limit that as much as we can.
So Ben, do you think that's like under $10,000? That in-kind? Because if you're thinking 100 EMS, because that's overtime, right?
No, I would venture it's under $20,000.
For the Buncombe County's
Yes.
contribution for personnel.
Yeah.
Okay.
because the only cost we would have would be overtime, because they get paid. Excuse me, they get paid anyhow. They're going to be paid whether they're working there or whether they're working somewhere else in the county if they're on the clock.
No,
right?
we'd bring them in. We would bring them in.
And it would be time and a half.
Time and a half.
So that'd be
when we
time and a
do the
half.
numbers, yeah.
Okay.
And then we also back up we have mutual aid and back up the other police departments.
I think I'd like to say when Chairman Gant first mentioned this, I was a little skeptical because I didn't know anything about it. But everything I read and all the research, it was all a positive. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve this.
All right, it's been a motion by Commissioner Frost. Is there a second?
I just have one more question.
Second
Sorry.
by Commissioner. Go ahead. Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
and just want to make sure, because this is not. I'll be honest. I misread it. I thought it was a 1-year thing. I didn't get the 5-year thing. So I'm trying to do a pivot here.
Sure.
Because I was very excited about it when I thought it was 1 year. So I want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence and asking my questions now. So when you talk about the infusion of economic stimulus,
That's a per year number.
per year number, so that it's anticipated that would occur
Yeah,
at that level each year.
It'd be 10,000 hotel room nights and $15 million economic infusion per year.
Per year. Okay.
Just to bring a little clarity to the commissioners, I'm on the TDA, and I appreciate y'all putting me on there. It's an opportunity to be able to sit and listen to this and hear all the good communication between everybody, and to see a match, you know, as part of the meeting. It's pretty exciting. But this is $75 million that's infused into the county over 5 years. I think his estimates for I think that it's going to be incrementally. I think it's going to increase every year. I mean, the Ironman triathlon is incredible that we're even having this conversation. I mean, I get excited, you know, thinking about that myself. I mean, that we're even having this conversation. This is a world triathlon. It's not just a local bike race. I mean, this is amazing.
Is this the one that happens down in Wilmington too?
This happens.
There is a half Ironman in Raleigh that is starting for the first time this June. But that is the only official Ironman race. There probably is similar distant races in the Carolinas, but there's no.
There's not the trademark. It is
no
not
trademark
coming
Ironman. The closest one is in Louisville, Kentucky.
And this is the one we see on TV in Hawaii and
Absolutely.
Yeah, they have their world championships in Hawaii every year.
Yeah, my thinking is we want to be with those cities that have this. The economic impact is pretty high.
Amazing.
And I know we had the Tour de Pont here not too long ago, and I think when we can do something like this, it's good. TDA is going to match whatever we do, and a lot of folks have worked hard to get it to this point, so I'm going to support it. I think it's a great program, and we again set up the sports commissioner part of that and ask them to bring these things in. So I think when you have a chance to get this, we should take it, and I hope we do.
Can I ask one more question? Is that the TDA's commitment, annual commitment as well, that
Yes, ma'am.
would renew 150 each year?
Yes.
Okay, I can get there.
Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, there's been a motion by Commissioner Frost, a second by Commissioner Newman. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, ladies. All right, next up we have a resolution adding sexual orientation and gender identity to our existing county non-discrimination policy. We also are going to consider an ordinance amending the county personnel ordinance. And the order I'd like to do this, I think there's a motion by Commissioner Belcher first, and let me recognize him, and I'm going to do that. We're going to vote on that, depending on the outcome there. Then we're going to have public hearing, and then we're going to discuss it among ourselves. So, Commissioner Belcher.
Okay, so I have a question for Mr. Frew. In light of some information today, are you aware of any pending legislation that might affect this policy or ordinance?
Yes, sir, Commissioner Belcher. This afternoon I became aware of a bill but introduced in the Senate by Senators Brown, Jackson, and Brock. General Counsel for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners just spread it out to a few of us county attorneys and just said, what additional impact do you think this bill might have? The bill is briefly intended as a regulatory relief to speed permitting processes, and it might involve fracking and other local attempts to govern things that emanate from state law. And the language in this proposed bill just alerted me to a possible conflict with what this commission is reviewing today on sexual orientation and gender identity. Now, mind you, I've only received this about an hour and a half ago, so
sure,
this is a quick opinion, but I need some time to do a formal opinion. But one section says clarify local government preemption, and the section would go into Chapter 153A, which governs county policies and ordinances. It says a county ordinance shall be consistent with the Constitution and laws of North Carolina and the United States. In accordance, an ordinance is not consistent with state or federal law, and it lists a number of situations where if there's a state law or a federal law which seem to have an effect on any area of regulatory or preempted law, it would preempt any attempt from a local government to say otherwise. So the point being that there's a set list in state and federal law of protected classes, and what this proposes to do is to add as protected classes sexual orientation and gender identity. So that's just some concern. Of course, it is a bill now. We don't know that it will become law. So there's a lot of questions.
Chairman Gant and Commissioner, based on that information, I would like to make a motion that we defer consideration of this ordinance and policy to postpone it to a time and date certain in the future, and I'd ask the clerk to give us the date for the last date in June when our meeting is, and make that part of the motion. June 18. I'd like to make that motion.
All right, sir. There's been a motion by Commissioner Belcher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner King. As I understand, the motion is to defer consideration, postpone any consideration of this until June 18, 2013. Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, yes.
Commissioner?
I know that everyone has an opinion on this, pro, con, whatever, but but I think whatever we do, we need to do it in accordance with state and federal law, and that we stay consistent. And I'd put a lot of time, I think all of us have put a lot of time into this issue and looked at this. I know I have, and spent many hours looking at it. And pretty well had gotten where I was going to go with this. And then we get, this was put in our hand later today. And I think that I'd like to stay consistent. And if it requires that, we look at wording or whatever, I think Commissioner Belcher's request to put this off, that we can talk. I did call Raleigh. I talked with them. They will push this through somewhere in June. This will be coming up. So I think we're good in that time frame. I also would like to I get some clarification from our staff on if we do run afoul of this. Is there a potential? I'm not asking will it. I'm just saying, is there a potential that this can affect any funding from state or federal, for that matter?
Commissioner King, we do get about $40 million every year from state and federal government. It flows through to us on a reimbursement basis. We really don't have a way to know if or when we might not get that money reimbursed, but that is the amount we receive every year from the state and federal government. It's about $40 million, and it's primarily in human service and public safety.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'll vote against the motion. I mean, look, there's thousands of bills introduced into the state legislature every year. This is not law. This is a it sounds like it's a piece of legislation that has to do with trying to prevent local governments from adopting rules against natural gas fracking, based on the limited information I heard about it earlier today. But regardless, yeah, it's just a bill that's been introduced. It's not state law. And, I think the whole purpose of us talking about this tonight is, the state legislature has done a lot of things, personally, I disagree with as it relates to issues of civil rights and equality in North Carolina. And we can't control what they do, but we can control what we believe here in Buncombe County. So I'll be voting against the motion to delay.
Okay, any other comments?
I'd like to say that I think we've delayed all this long enough, and I'll vote against it as well.
Okay.
I just think that a little time to make sure that this doesn't get struck down. Whatever if this is enacted tonight, that we run the risk of it being struck down. So we just need to be aware of that.
And I sincerely appreciate your prudence and your concern, and I guess I have a different take on it. And I feel like if Raleigh wants to come in here and yank rights away from our people, bring them on, and that's how I would see that. So I'm hopeful that if this bill, first of all, I hope the fracking doesn't happen, A. B, I hope they get out of the local government's business. C, if those two things don't happen, I hope that they will look at that language and make sure that they're not making it broader than perhaps they intended to make it. Because I'm going to go on the premise, probably naive premise, that bill was not written to keep LGBT people from being harassed and fired. It's a crazy assumption, but that's what I'm going to go on. And I do appreciate my colleagues being forthright and asking good questions and trying to see all sides of it, but I'll also be voting against it too.
Okay, any other comments?
I think we've all been in on this. Mr. Frew, if we go through and through with not this vote, but the vote tonight, is there any possible legal something that can happen if we pass the bill through, not what Joe's brought forward, but it's going to be a loss, and we're going to go back to the bill and go ahead and vote on it, I'm sure. In that respect, lawsuits or anything like that with this bill being passed, would we be responsible anyway going forward? Would it be an opportunity for suits to come out there?
Well, certainly, Commissioner Fryer, you understand, I don't have a good crystal ball. But I can't help but believe that if we're adding to protected classes that aren't required by state and federal law, there would be the possibility that if we discriminated against an individual for any reason, that it would give a plaintiff an additional cause of action against the county. So that
I don't want to discriminate against anyone. I mean, there's different areas. We open up a Pandora's box here. Then we've got people that work for us. I'm sure some of them are on drugs. I'm sure some of them go home and drink at night. That's what they do. And then there's tobacco users. So are we going to make classes for all these people along the way? I don't think anybody, personally, should ever be downed in any way, and I won't go for that as long as I work for Buncombe County. If I hear it, I've got a problem with it. So if there's financial problems that could happen out of this, that's the one reason I think the people that when Miss Eby brought this to us the other night and had 10 people that worked with her diligently, and they researched this and they looked at it, but we all sat up here and we praised what they had done. But now we're sitting up here tonight thinking about taking something or adding something into what they'd done that I apologize because I didn't ask questions to them. Did you go through this and see if this would fit into the format? So that's where I'm at on this issue.
I could call the question about the proceeding forward, but ask your question.
I guess I'd like to ask a question, Mr. Frew. In light of what Commissioner Fryer is saying, no one sitting up here wants any kind of discrimination, harassment, etc. going forward with this. I think we all are in agreement on that. Is there any language that could be written that encompasses everyone, just as a body of employees, that says that we as an employer basically don't discriminate against anyone for any reason, that is a generic?
Are we getting into the substance of the thing? Yeah. Which I'm happy to talk about, but I'd kind of like to decide: are we even going to talk about this tonight, and then we can kind of go at it? But.
And again, the reason for this is because of information that has come forward today, this afternoon. God, I mean, an hour before, and so that's why the motion has been made to allow us to be able to defer it. So.
Okay, I think there's a call question, and I think that has priority over other discussions. Is that right?
I believe everyone's had an opportunity to discuss it, so yes, sir.
And I would say we can certainly talk more about the merits, but I think this is a motion to defer consideration. I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
No. No.
Well, because I tricked you, I think we had 4 no's. We had Commissioner Jones, Gant, Newman, and Frost against, Fryer, King, and Belcher in favor. So the motion fails. Now we have a resolution adding sexual orientation and gender identity. And
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
yes, sir.
I think it'd be appropriate to treat them in one discussion, but it's set up as separate votes because the resolution aspect of it is for an Appendix F to the ordinance, which is a policy, specifically the unlawful workplace harassment, and the ordinance is for changes of this specific language within the ordinance. So it's 2 votes.
All right. Well, I think, let's see, I'll be glad to just tell why this is advanced. About how long would this board consider this? 2 years, year and a half?
No.
Last fall, so not, less than a year. An earlier board considered this. The vote was negative, 2-3 was my recollection. And this is an attempt to add to our current policy the prohibition against discrimination for sexual orientation and gender identity. It does, in fact, create new class. It does, in fact, if our county discriminates, I'd be the first to tell you, it does give people a right to come in and complain about it. And if we do that, I hope the county does the right thing. But so I'm not going to sit up here as a lawyer and try to tell anybody that this doesn't create a possible more liability, because of course it does. But if we're doing what we're supposed to do as a community, we're not going to have the claims. And I think we do what we can. My reason for putting this on the agenda is because I want to make sure that there's no question about it. There's absolutely unequivocal policy of who we will not permit discrimination against. We hope it's against no one, but we know, and I would go further to say some of the emails I've gotten are the best evidence of the need for this policy. So that's my 2 cents. That's why I asked to put this on here with the other commissioners, and so I would make a motion we adopt the resolution ordinance and continue our discussion and then have public comment on it.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been a motion by the chairman, a second by Commissioner Frost. Any discussion among the board? Then we're going to do public comment. Then we're going to have more discussion among the board.
I just wanted to clarify. This is all this is making sure that people don't get discriminated against. That's all it is. We're not going to have special marriages in our chambers. All we're doing is making sure people don't get discriminated against. That's plain, simple, all that is. And as far as I can see, really not a close link to fracking.
Okay, any other comments before we do public hearing and then reopen it to this board? Now let's have public comment. 3 minutes. Why don't we line up over here? Let's, or better yet, why don't we just have, just line up on the wall and then the first, or line up on that wall right next to that way. You won't have to move as far. Why don't we just go ahead, Mr. Dirtmore, you can be first up. And if y'all go behind him on that side near the curtains, we'll go that way and we're going to hear from everybody. And like before, last week, folks, you may not agree with what people say here, but you're going to respect their points of view. And if there's any catcalling or hissing or gasping, I'm going to ask you to leave, because everybody here has a right to be heard, and this is an important issue for them. It's an important issue for you. It's an important issue for our community. So we're going to do it the right way. Last week we did it the right way, and I'd ask you to continue the good manners and be ladies and gentlemen about this. Mr. Ditmore.
I'm Alan Ditmore of Old 20. I support the motion for anti-discrimination law, but really on a temporary basis. I don't think we should be singing Kumbaya free and unity forever. I think it's too idealistic. But I'm for doing what it takes to advance gay employment. But in the long term, I was given a great deal of concern by New Haven firefighters, in which it was a case in which anti-discrimination law reduced minority employment, because it's a double-edged sword, and it can be a very severe one. I think it's especially severe in the future here, in the long-term future of Buncombe County. That I fear that we can be the next New Haven firefighters. Actually, state intervention is ideal because it results in a temporary policy. We pass it now. The state repeals it in June. We have a temporary policy. We have a symbolic value. Then once the state cans our discrimination law, we can move on to hire gays preferentially. And we are free to do that, which I would not be free to do if I still lived in Massachusetts. and which is what, New Haven was trying to do. There's lots of reason to do that, and I'm looking for surveyors, and I can put a help wanted that, wanted gay surveyor, and I'm probably setting up to do that. But according to my statistics anyway, and I got some new ones, that a fertility rate of about 0.7, where my old number said 0.5. So maybe it's rising and maybe the numbers are just shaky. But that results in less child care related fatigue, less school tax, less child care expenses, less family and medical leave, all these advantages which would give us cause to hire gays preferentially. And in the long term, I think that's what we'll be doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Ditmore. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Alan Rosenthal from here in town, and I really wasn't going to comment on this. I was just in town, but I haven't seen you folks in such a long time. I wanted to come say hello, but then I got caught up in this discussion. Gay marriages and gay rights are sweeping the nation, if you will. We're seeing that politically it's expedient for Republicans, conservatives to move in that direction, and I think that's proper. Anybody that knows me fairly well knows that I'm very ecumenical, but I'm also, one thing that gets in my craw is when people attack Christians for their beliefs. I have a number of Bibles, and I've been accused of reading it once in a while. I don't find anything in mine that says that we should treat anybody differently. I have a rhetorical question. It's rhetorical because I don't want to use up my time for this, but who do we discriminate against? And so I kind of I forget who it is that brought it up over there, is David, Mr. King, is the idea of it would be wonderful if we could have some sort of global language so that nobody fell through the cracks. There's discrimination, but you don't fit under this statutory guideline. It would be wonderful if we could have some wording for that, but I just don't know if that's possible. I'm for non-discriminatory language in the county, with all respect to everybody of faith that believe that their scriptural reference speaks otherwise. When I read mine, I don't. But the thing is, though, the reality is that we were moving towards a LBGT acceptance in marriage and lifestyles. We need to embrace that, and I think if we don't embrace that, then we say to people that you can come up to, if you have a problem, come up to this elected official, but not necessarily that elected official, because he or she doesn't really cotton to those types of things. So I probably said a little bit more than I wanted to. I would ask for everybody to support this non-discriminatory language, and quite frankly, for everybody to lay these issues aside and bring the citizens of the county together. And that's, again, I want to stress, with all due respect for those people of faith, and I love those people, and I respect them. But I think we have a calling to bring people together, and probably now is a better time than later. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenthal. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Megan Burke, and I'm an attorney in private practice here in Asheville, and I'm in favor of this resolution. And I'd like to correct some misinformation. What is not a bill is Title VII, a federal law that prohibits discrimination in employment. That law was amended and construed by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in April 2012. As you know, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is charged with enforcing Title VII. And Buncombe County need look no further than the EEOC's own website, which I'll read briefly from, to discover that it may be liable under Title VII if it fails to prohibit discrimination on account of gender identity and sexual orientation. And this is a quote. Discrimination against an individual because that person is transgender is discrimination because of sex in violation of Title VII. This is also known as gender identity discrimination. In addition, lesbian, gay, and bisexual individuals may bring sex discrimination claims. These may include, for example, allegations of sexual harassment or other kinds of sex discrimination, such as adverse actions taken because of the person's nonconformance with sex stereotypes. And that is in the words of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. And again, as you know, Buncombe County is a covered employer under Title VII. And in fact, the vast majority of federal courts of appeals have agreed with that assessment, not only of Title VII, but also of the Equal Protection Clause to the United States Constitution. Now, given that more than, I think in the last study, about 90% of transgender employees reported some form of on-the-job harassment or discrimination, there is a significant likelihood that that is happening right here in Buncombe County. That number is quite high. And in fact, I would contend that your failure to amend this policy to include gender identity and sexual orientation is some evidence that Buncombe County is failing to meet the requirements of Title VII. I would ask you respectfully to pass this resolution and bring Buncombe County in line with the requirements of federal law.
Thank you, Ms. Berg. And Jasmine.
Good evening. My name is Jasmine Beach Ferrara. I'm a resident of Asheville. I'm also a minister in the United Church of Christ and the director of the Campaign for Southern Equality, which advocates for LGBT rights. I speak tonight as a local citizen, also as a gay person and as a person of faith. And I want, first of all, to just take a moment to say how grateful I am that we live in a community where we can have these conversations respectfully and civilly and with some compassion towards one another. So thank you to all of you. In addition to the legal context that Megan Burke just described, I want to share a bit of the community context regarding why I also support the passage of this resolution. Under current law in North Carolina, an individual can be fired for being lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. We are living in a dynamic time where state law and federal law are moving quickly around this, so that complicates the circumstances for LGBT people in North Carolina. Megan cited the statistics that 90% of transgender people report workplace discrimination. Additionally, 37% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual individuals report workplace discrimination or harassment. So it is very likely that discrimination and harassment are occurring around sexual orientation and gender identity in Buncombe County, whether or not it's being formally reported or not. The impact of an environment in which discrimination and harassment are tolerated or not explicitly prohibited for vulnerable classes extends beyond how it impacts those specific employees, though, into the tenor of an employment setting. Factors like these impede the recruitment and retention of a qualified workforce. They negatively impact employee morale. And in that way, they represent an inefficient use of taxpayer dollars. So from the perspective of the county's values, but also the county's financial responsibilities to responsibly use taxpayer funding, this represents a concrete way that the county can implement a simple adjustment to a current employment practice, or policy rather, that would improve employee morale, improve retention of a qualified workforce, and more efficiently use taxpayer dollars in that regard. Beyond this, the county's policies ripple out beyond specific county employees and send a message about the nature of the community we live in. Buncombe County has the highest rate of same-sex couples of any county in the state, and a similarly high rate of LGBT individuals. So there are families and people of all ages, including LGBT youth, who are closely following how our county leaders navigate these waters, especially in a time when these issues are in the news each and every day. So for all of those reasons, I urge you to pass this resolution amending the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Reverend Runyon?
Commissioners and Chairman, thank you for this opportunity to speak, and appreciate y'all's service to our community.
Thank you.
I would like to start off by saying that this resolution that you're discussing today, as a Bible-believing Christian minister, I must be against it. I must ask you to vote against it. I wish you would have tabled it and given the community further time of discussion. As you said, there's been months of discussion already, but the community hasn't been involved. It's been basically a group here on staff. But this is not a civil rights situation. The Bible is the bottom line. And I must address this today by saying that Commissioner Gant made a statement to the sheriff a while ago that they were getting to the root of the problem. And I must tell you that the root of the problem, the Bible addresses nations that forget God. And that's where we're coming to in America. The most of the discussion today in this room has been about financial matters, spending money on drug abuse, substance abuse, child abuse. Half of the discussion today in the forepart of the meeting was exactly that. And I'm afraid that you're taking a backhoe and just digging a deeper hole monetarily that you're never going to get out of. Because when the Bible addresses nations that forget God, there are results of forgetting God. And we're ignoring Romans chapter 1. In Romans chapter 1, the Bible names 23 sins besides the sin of sodomy. And they are sins of choice. Sin is by choice. Being birthed determines what color you are because of your parents. So there's no way that we can liken the two. We see in the Word of God that people that choose sin are people that forgets God. Now, I know that the Bible is ignored in these meetings. I thank God that you still pray. We discussed that some time back. Chairman Gant knows, and we continued to pray and thank the Lord for that. And I do appreciate the fact that Chairman Gant prays before every meeting. And I pray that you'll continue that. But remember, this is not a civil rights issue. Please vote against this.
Thank you. Mr. Oakes?
Chris Oakes, Wanoa. First of all, I want to apologize to my Christian brothers for standing with the LGBT the last time I spoke. Because the Bible says clearly about this issue, like in Leviticus 18 verse 22. And it says, "Thou shalt not lie with a man kind as womankind. It is an abomination." Then in Romans, it says that the women change the natural use to that which is against nature. And also the men burn the lust one towards another and receive themselves the recompense of their error. Then on down, now this is about everybody else, it says, "Who knowing the judgment of God that commit such things are worthy of hell, not only do the same thing, but have pleasure in them that do them." This county has had pleasure in the gays in this area. Shame on y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Oakes. Yes, sir. Reverend?
My name is Philip Wilson. I live in Weaverville, and I'm a local pastor. And I do want to start off this. I do want to say I thank the good Lord for our new Senate that we've got up in North Carolina, our leaders, those that do have some moral principles about them, and they're not ashamed to stand for what's right. And as I stood here a couple of weeks ago, I quoted you a verse of Scripture that said, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." And I thought that America was founded upon Judeo-Christian principles. And we've got revisionists in the day and hour that we live in our colleges and professors, and they're rewriting history and they're denying the fundamentals that this nation was founded upon. But America was founded upon the good Word of God and the fear of the Lord. And there's laws on the books, even today, that you say are archaic and are outdated and they need to be changed. We need to go progressive and we need to progress along. But these laws reverenced God and honored Him and His principles. And these laws brought, as men honored the Lord and produced these laws, it brought the blessings of God upon this nation. America stood in World War I. She stood in World War II. And she stood in the face of adversities over these years. And God has been our umbrella of protection. He's blessed this great nation. And I do want to say that this time I'm proud to be an American. I'd rather live in America than any nation in this world. But I want to tell you just a little story here in the Bible. It's about a gentleman named Samson. I believe about everybody's heard about Samson, his great power, his strength, and nobody could stand against Samson. But you see, Samson didn't derive that power by eating Wheaties. He didn't derive that power by working out. But he feared God and he upheld God's principles. But little bit by little bit, he compromised those godly principles. And one day he turned around and the power of God was gone. I'm afraid we're going to keep compromising the principles of the Word of God little bit by little bit. We've talked about, somebody spoke about the nation, how the gay rights is sweeping the nation. Are we going to turn around and we're going to find that umbrella of protection, that umbrella of blessing has been removed? We see these lawmen are here to protect you from danger. But when you go against God, who's going to protect you from His judgment, friend? Think about that.
Thank you, Reverend Wilson. Yes, sir.
My name is excuse me, R.J. Harris. I'm first a Christian. I fully believe that the Bible is the only truth we have in society, and I think it substantiates itself. It fully proves itself if you read the Old and New Testament. And the subject we're talking about is we call it sin, basically, and you, the board, I hope you will vote against adding this to, adding sexual orientation, gender, and gender identity. I hope you will vote against that. And if you do, I think the blood will be on your hands for sending some of these people to hell. There is a heaven and a hell as soon as we die, according to the Word. And if you don't believe that, you have no. I don't think your morals are very high. We must remember to try to live according to truth. So I'm representing family, friends, and myself. And I hope you'll also, as a board, remember, not just a few months ago, a great majority voted along this similar idea when we voted to have marriage only between a man and a woman. Homosexuality is a destructive lifestyle, sinful lifestyle. If murder is sin, if stealing is sin, if lying is sin, then homosexuality is a sin. It's destructive, and it will send people's souls to hell. You should remember the voters and vote what they want. Majority of the people stand with me on this opinion, and it was proven in the last election about the marriage amendment. I hope you will vote against this amendment and do what's right.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. Yes, sir.
My name is Andrew Sluter. I'm from Mars Hill, representing a large number of people in the community. Proverbs 11:30, and you might accuse us of being Bible thumpers, but I want to quote you some scripture. The Bible says, "The fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise." Daniel 12:3 says, "And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament forever, and they that turn many unto righteousness as the stars." James 5:20, "Let him know that he which converteth the sinner from the error of his ways shall save a soul from death and shall hide a multitude of sin." Which concludes me with the last verse I want to quote you, which was the last will and testament of our Lord Jesus Christ. Mark 16:15, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." My concern with this resolution is, as a Bible-believing Christian, I have a legitimate, whether you believe it is or not, I have a legitimate concern for every soul on planet Earth. It was the last command of my Savior for me to go and preach the gospel to every creature. The gospel is Jesus Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, and that He rose again the third day according to the Scriptures, and whosoever will may come unto Him and receive eternal life. That's the gospel. Under this, though, and as the gospel preacher, as Paul did with King Felix, and as I want to do with you today, Paul said, the Bible says he preached and reasoned with Felix of sin, righteousness, and the judgment to come. Okay? Under this bill, first of all, I want you to notice where you have the, whereas many organizations and community leaders have suggested that it is appropriate to expand upon the legally protected classes. I want to ask you, which organizations were those? Did you take into consideration other community leaders and organizations that were opposed to this? Also, you said that it was in the opinion that of the best interest of the citizens and residents of Buncombe County to do this. Did you consider the other residents and citizens of Buncombe County that were opposed to this? We feel like this is an agenda being pushed down our throats. Okay? Also, commissioners, let me remind you that only one district passed the marriage or voted against the marriage amendment, and that was District 1. You are supporting and representing people that did not want this kind of lifestyle in legislative. They voted for the marriage amendment. So let me remind you that also. But let me say this in closing, and I know I've been kind of bold as a lion, but let me leave as a sheep tonight. It says that unwelcome or unsolicited speech or conduct based upon all these things, which will be sexual orientation and gender identity, is considered harassment. So my question, when I fulfill the Great Commission of Jesus Christ to go and preach a gospel of love and acceptance and forgiveness to these people, could they look at me and consider that harassment? Me fulfilling my religious duty of preaching the gospel to them. Could that be harassment? If so, we need to strongly reconsider the language of this bill so that my religious beliefs are not enforced upon, so that I can preach the gospel to every creature. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luter. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Randy Keener. I live in Leicester, and I'm a pastor in the Black Mountain area. And in so doing, I represent more than just myself. And I would like to ask you to vote against putting gender identity and sexual orientation in the non-discrimination statement tonight. 2 weeks ago, some said that this was not a Bible issue, but what I'd ask you to realize is that everything is a Bible issue, irregardless of whether it's recognized or not. When you remove the Bible, you remove the only viable basis for morality, and several passages have been read this evening, so I'll refrain from that. But while I believe that the overall board has the best interest of the public in mind, and in many areas does a great job, I've enjoyed sitting in tonight and watching the business go forward, and I support you in many of these areas. But some of these social issues that are coming to pass worry me, because I believe that it's putting a check mark beside what is considered by the Scripture as immorality. And so I'd like you to reconsider this. And I believe in respecting everyone. We don't take applications at my church to come. Anybody who would like to can come. We do not discriminate against anyone, but I believe that this policy is sufficient as it stands to protect all persons. So please vote no concerning adding gender identity and sexual orientation to the non-discrimination statement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Reverend Keener. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Yvonne Cook Riley. I live in Buncombe County, and I'm a taxpayer here in Buncombe County. I come tonight to represent Blue Ridge Pride organization, which has brought 11,000 gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people into Buncombe County to celebrate Pride last October. I also represent the transgendered community, which now has over 7 active and participating support groups to support the transgendered transition. The support groups are available through MAHAC, they are through the Veterans Administration. They are recognized that these people that are in that journey are valuable and are citizens of Buncombe County. They are appreciating the possibility of having gender identity included in the non-discriminatory thing. So when they see that in that application, and they see it in the 11 other points that we are talking about for those 2 words, gender identity, that they are there, and that presents a comfort to them to feel that their employment and the employment that is affecting the other workers that they're working, that it is noted that gender identity is a very viable thing. The speakers before us have proven without a doubt that there is alive and well discrimination or possible discrimination within this county. Thank you very much. I ask you to vote in favor of this resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. Yes, sir.
Stan Taylor, citizen of Asheville. Commissioner Grant, fellow commissioners. As already pleaded, we should vote against adding the term sexual orientation into the county's discrimination policy. As one of our fine Christian preachers stated about a fortnight ago, this is much more than just a fairness issue. This is a moral issue. The decision you make tonight will be squarely predicated on your moral compass. Before you vote, you must consider the constituents for your district. As Andrew Sluter stated, only the Central District 1 voted against the marriage amendment. The rest of you represent districts that voted for the amendment. Therefore, it stands to reason that your same constituency would ask you to vote against this language, which would, in effect, place special recognition on a lifestyle that used to be considered morally corrupt and reprehensible. We would ask you to vote against the additional language on the platform tonight because it is morally wrong. Christian or not, the moral conservative majority requires you to vote, if not based on your own moral soundness, then on the moral soundness of your constituents, which you were elected to represent the people, not yourselves. Bible-believing Christians do not wish to deny anyone civil rights, but legislating in favor of what the country used to consider immoral is not civil rights. If our founding fathers and courts thereafter considered the GLBT lifestyle morally acceptable, they would have had to make concessions for it a long time ago. On the contrary, since the founding of this nation and this state, laws have existed on our books defining sodomy a criminal act. Now, these same courts that considered the GLBT lifestyle abominable, these same legislative bodies that used to incorporate biblical values in their most fundamental laws are now being bludgeoned into submission by a minority who want majority status. Those of us conservatives here tonight have no fear of the unknown. We heard about fear a fortnight ago. On the contrary, we have no fear to face the legislative chaos. How weak is our county commissioner? Stand up for what is right. Even 10 years ago, this would not have been an issue. I recently spoke with a former commissioner who said that after many years of service, he finally left the commission because they were becoming increasingly liberal. This commission already has the lid in place against adult bookstore operations, against prostitution rings, because it is considered immoral. Yet our same commission will sanction same-sex unions as a protected lifestyle? This is not about civil rights. It's about special rights, originally consistently reserved for a married man and woman.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Yes, sir.
Hey, Aaron Sarver from Asheville.
I have a couple of points of information that will hopefully clarify what y'all are voting on tonight. So the first point would be regarding the county attorney mentioning the legislation that was came to y'all's attention an hour or so before the meeting. House Bill 429, amending the Non-Discrimination and Equal Opportunity provisions of the State Personnel Act. This is in the General Assembly. So basically, this amends the state personnel policy in the same way y'all are voting on tonight. Senate Bill 544, amending the Non-Discrimination and Equal Opportunity provisions of the State Personnel Act. I generally don't think it's wise to make policy decisions on proposed bills, but it should be noted that there's a conflict. Those proposed bills are in opposition to each other. So, point of information. My second point of information, a number of counties and municipalities in North Carolina offer sexual orientation and gender identity as protected classes in their personnel policies. They include Durham County, Guilford County, which has sexual orientation but not gender identity, Mecklenburg County, Orange County, the cities, as y'all know, Asheville, Bessemer City, Boone, Carrboro, Charlotte, Chapel Hill, Durham, Greensboro, High Point, Raleigh, Winston-Salem. So there's a heck of a lot of cities and counties. If this law were, if y'all did pass this law and it were to be invalidated, y'all would be joining, I think, a nice list of cities and counties. So by in no means are y'all going out on a limb and doing something new. There's a lot of cities and counties that have passed this legislation. It's been on the books for a while. Not seeing a lot of lawsuits about it regarding the passage, as far as I'm aware. My last point of information, there are 12 other states. There are 12 states. North Carolina is not one. There are 12 states that have INDA policy that includes sexual orientation and gender identity on their books. So as far as federal funding, those states aren't getting cut off any kind of federal funding because of including these policies. So hopefully that clarifies what y'all are voting about tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Nicole Alexander from here in Asheville. I did not come here tonight to talk. I'm a very, very private person, and the reason I am speaking up is I appreciate the opportunity for the community to be able to come forward, and that there is such a diversity of opinions and comments. But as one who loves God deeply, I need to represent a portion of the our alphabet soup community that isn't understood. When people come and use scripture that, from their interpretation, because there are opposing interpretations, state that we as a population are immoral, you are not considering those of us who have no sexual relationships. I have not been in a relationship for 22 years, but I identify as bisexual, as gay, and I am asking you to vote in favor of this because I would fall into that category of one who would be very potentially discriminated against because I am not a typical female, but I'm actually not a typical gay either, and I'm not breaking any moral biblical laws according to these people's interpretations, but I would be subject to discrimination if there was not protection. So I'm asking you to consider this in an even broader way than has already been presented tonight, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander. Yes, sir.
Well, I didn't come here tonight to speak about this either. I got sued by the county.
Okay, if
and
you
that's
give your
what
name
I came
and
to
where
talk
you're from,
about.
sir, please.
But my name's Larry Smith, and I used to practice law here in the 70s and the 80s. And I remember a case that I participated in. It was Wayne Warren versus the city of Asheville. They were trying to fire him because he refused to take a lie detector test on the question of whether or not he was gay. and I represented the man. Now, that was in the 80s. And here we are in 2013, and we're talking about not codifying a law that's already in existence. The 14th Amendment says, nor shall anyone be denied the equal protections of the law. That also relates to this lawyer here, when she talked about Title VII. Title VII codifies the 14th Amendment. And you know something? The Constitution that we have, which is the highest law of the land, doesn't have a God in it. It has no God in it whatsoever. Nothing about God. The Constitution was formed by the founding fathers who believed in the humanist philosophies of John Locke and Rousseau and Montesquieu. Now, my dad was a Baptist minister. I grew up here. I'm 68 years old. And I believe in the Constitution of the United States, and that's the highest law of the land. And that's a reason why you should not even have to have a resolution to protect LGBT people. You shouldn't even have to have it. But now that it's brought up, you should vote for it. You should have it. You should pronounce these people's rights to live in this country with the same rights that all the rest of us have. I'm a heterosexual. I have 3 children. I heard a lot of hatred here tonight. That's hatred. It's disgusting and it's despicable. Lawrence versus Texas was a Supreme Court case that was passed, when was it? The 70s, the 80s? It's been like 20 years since Lawrence versus Texas came down, which says you cannot prosecute people who are consenting adults in a sexual relationship.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Any other public comment? Mr. Rice? Anybody else after Mr. Rice? Okay. Yeah, you can. Okay, you've already. Well,
You
can't
can't
speak
come back.
twice. Yeah, just one time. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Being brought up as one of 19 and in a Christian atmosphere, that's why I do what I do today. That's why I love people. That's why I go help people. That's why I help the people that's misfortunate than I am. There ain't nothing any greater than the service to humankind. But there's one thing that I want you to remember. We just had Easter. That represents something to us, to me, and it should you as a Christian. This might be strong words, but the same people that put Christ on the cross is the same people that sits behind the benches and the pews and the things that you sit behind as people that we voted into office. These kind of people that we're talking about are politicians. These people are the people that call themselves Christian or whatever they call themselves. And it's not for me to judge you. It's not for me to call you names or anyone else. But the same people that put Christ on the cross is the same people that's making decisions to put him on the cross again. And that could be in someone's individual life. Because when we nail a nail into the cross of a human being, we're doing that to Christ. So when you think about your decision tonight, think about what Christ would have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any other public comment tonight? Okay, we're going to have, well, let's go ahead and talk among ourselves. And there would be a second.
Mr. Chairman,
with an
are you going to
affirmative.
close the public hearing?
Yes. I'll call the, thank you, Ms. Frew. I'll call the public hearing closed at 7:06. Okay, any other comments?
Are we taking public comment, or are we discussing this?
This among ourselves now. No more public comment. And in fact, the second reading, if we pass it tonight, there will be a second reading. We will not be taking public comment for that because we've done it tonight. Commissioner King.
Okay. No one sits up here more conflicted about this than myself. I have spent numerous hours turning this over in my mind, thinking about this, trying to decide what is the right thing to do, where should I go with this, trying to represent my constituency, trying to represent those people that are my friends, that I care for deeply. I've heard things tonight about the gay and lesbian community that trouble me. I personally have numerous friends that are gay and lesbian. They are hardworking people. It is not my place to judge them. They're good friends to me. They care deeply for me. And likewise, they are, like I said, they're hardworking. They're a part of our community. I cannot sit here and say that we should discriminate them. I guess the question I would ask, I certainly understand the biblical approach. I grew up in the church. I have that. I guess, are we saying that because they are gay and lesbian, should we discriminate against them? And I don't know if this is the right language to put into this or not, but I personally do not judge them. I take them as my friends, just as I do those friends of mine who are fundamentalist. I love them all. I respect them all. This is a very, very difficult thing for me because I have spoken with my friends who are very grounded in the biblical world. I have spoken with my friends on the gay and lesbian side of this. I respect them all. I appreciate everyone's comments tonight. But I'm still conflicted. I'm not sure how I'm going to vote on this until the vote's actually taken. I don't know how we can say to any group, we're going to exclude you. I don't know. My preference is that everyone is said we will not discriminate. That is where I would rather be with this. I don't like to enumerate whether it's a smoker, whether it's anyone. That's immaterial to me, but I do want people to understand that the people that I know who are gay and lesbian are good people. They're hardworking people. They support me. I work for some of them. I can't take their money and then treat them as if they weren't my equal. They also share a great deal of kindness with me. So just wanted to make that statement.
Yes, sir. Any other comments?
Yeah, I don't want to. I had a friend of mine recently tell me who we don't agree on everything at all, but we're friends, and that to not confuse compassion with conviction. And there are people on this board that we represent, people within our districts, and they're of varied faiths, and they go to various places. And I love the comment tonight that we heard that we don't take applications at my church to come in. And I don't ask anybody anything when I sit down at dinner or I'm in a restaurant or anything. We just treat each other as people. And I believe that what the committee put forth a couple of weeks ago in the respective workplace policy clearly sent a signal to this county that we will not tolerate treating anybody unequal, period. I don't think it's necessary to put this language in here. I'm kind of like my commissioner friend King. It'd be nice to work if we just said that everybody's going to be treated with dignity and respect, and they should be. And that's this country. The gentleman over here talked about, the amendments, talked about, someone mentioned EEOC. There are opportunities if someone is mistreated at the workplace that they have an avenue now to go to. And I think it's sufficient, and therefore I'm going to be voting against this.
Any other comments?
Commissioner Belcher's friend is myself. We've had numerous comments. I've had a lot of comments with other people. The one reservation I do have about this is the concern about what the legislature, not just the legislature is doing, but the federal is doing. I feel that this ultimately will be resolved in the courts. I went so far as to check on this judicially today. I understand judges are not even allowed to discuss this with individuals because this may be coming down very soon. So I still remain very conflicted about this. And but no matter how my vote goes, I cannot sit up here and denigrate the gay and lesbian community.
Actually, it was another friend, though. I actually have more than one.
Excuse
friend.
me.
Yeah. It was another
Joe has
friend.
lots of friends.
Yeah, well, it was a friend. But and all these people on this board are my friends. And so what I love is the opportunity that we have. We can come together as men and women, and we can disagree. And that we can try our best to represent one another and the views of our constituents. And that's what we'll try our best to do tonight.
I want to... I was raised, my mother was deeply, deeply religious, and the biggest lesson I learned from her is that we have a loving God. And I didn't hear a lot of love tonight. I heard a lot of hate speech. And the amount of hate speech that was heard reinforces my opinion that we need to do this. Somebody very close to me said, when you're in politics, you make a lot of decisions, and you're not going to make everybody happy. But you have to look yourself in the mirror in the morning, and that's what I want to be able to do. And I'm not conflicted. I feel very clear that this is something we need to do.
Any other comments?
Yes.
Mr. Fryer?
I still back up to a few weeks ago. We had a committee put together, and it was people of gays, blacks. It was 10 people and Miss Abby. And they come up with the thing that we asked them. I didn't, but the previous commissioners did ask them to do. They spent a humongous amount of time on it. They got it done. We're slapping them in the face with what we're doing here. But going to the sex, gender, whatever, as last week my brother was gay. And he'll be dead 6 years this month. But I back up and to see what he thinks and what he had always said, and we had a good life together as brothers. It was a little rough 40 years ago when I told people, there's a lot of things that's easier today than it was back then for him. But he never wanted anything from anyone. He wanted to be just treated like who he was, and that's all he asked. And he had a big voice. He owned Scandals. It's a big club down here, and I think a lot of people know where it's at. The people that own it now, the other people still work there that work for my brother, and they're all friends of mine. And they always will be friends of mine. But it's no matter how I vote up here, I'm not against anyone in this room. I listen. I learn. I don't think that we have to separate ourselves from being humans. And being a human is when we appreciate each other for who we are, not what we want to be called, not any specialty. I built race car engines, so I won races and championships, so that means I'm something that I am. I'm not. I just want people to be people. I listened to Bill Stanley speak when this came through before. He's been on this board for 24 years. He didn't know anything about discrimination in this county. I would like to know about it. You know, if Miss Green or Miss Stone or Mr. Creighton, they've got the years in. They're the ones that's supposed to tell us what's going on. We're supposedly bosses. No, we're in the learning process. I know 5 of us are. Totally learning process. So I know when we all walk down to that out of here, there's going to be votes against and there's going to be votes for. But we're going to walk out of here just like we were and walk out in the audience and talk to the people that we do respect. And it's not a vote. It's that I think that you're humans. I don't think as you of bisexual, lesbian, gay, transgender. I think of you as humans. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Prime. Any other comments?
I guess I'd like to go back to, we've already decided we're going to take the vote, but my preference would have been that we could have put this off until we know where it was going, and I would understand more about what's happening, but we're going to vote. So.
Okay. Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I would just, before we vote, appreciate everyone coming out again tonight, and appreciate the strong convictions that everyone spoke from both sides of the issues about this. It's clear that it's a very important issue that there's a lot of different views in the community on, but I appreciate everyone who took the time to come out and share their views on this issue. For myself, I think that our responsibility is to assure equal protection under the law for all of our citizens and certainly for all of our public employees. And the issue before us tonight is whether or not we should simply clearly state that there cannot be discrimination within our organization based on sexual orientation. And regardless of other theological views that people may have about these issues, I think that there should not be that much controversy that people should not be fired for this reason, or otherwise that have their job and ability to support themselves and their family affected by these issues. That's not in any way appropriate to give as part of the decision-making process around our public employees. And then beyond that, I also believe it's our responsibility to make it clear that Buncombe County is a safe and inclusive and welcoming community. And for both those reasons, I support the proposal.
I guess my concern is the timing of this, and there's some issues that were brought up regarding potential funding issues and those things that I'm not comfortable with. It's not, there's no question in my mind about the discrimination part, but I'm uncomfortable about some of these other issues that revolve around the state and potential funding. It may or may not be anything, but that's troubling for me.
Okay, any other comments?
What was it you said last time? It's always the right time to do the right thing.
It's never a wrong time to do the right thing.
That was a good quote. And
right time, right.
Have we? There's a motion and a second on the table.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. This is final comments or discussion among our board.
I'm ready to vote.
All those in favor of the resolution ordinance? No, we vote on them separately? Yes, sir. Okay, let's vote on the resolution adding sexual orientation and gender identity to the county non-discrimination statement. Motion by Chairman Gant, second by Commissioner Frost. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
Frost, Newman, Gant, and Jones in favor. Belcher, King, and Fryer against. Motion for the ordinance amending the county personnel policy to include references to sexual orientation and gender identity. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
No.
Same total, same 4-3 vote. Gant, Frost, Newman, and Jones in favor. Belcher, King, and Fryer against. All right. Thank you. The next matter of business we have are the board appointment, the Adult Care Home Community Advisory Committee. We have 5 vacancies. Is there a candidate? I nominate Kermit Sprinkles.
Second.
Is there any other nominations? We have 4 more seats. All those in favor of Mr. Sprinkles, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, Mr. Sprinkles is appointed 7-0. The next regular meeting of the commission will be April 16, beginning at 4:30 in the commission chambers, 200 College Street, room 326 in downtown Asheville. The board will hold a retreat on Friday, April 12, beginning at 1 o'clock, and on Saturday, April 13, beginning at 9 o'clock at 200 College Street, first floor conference room. Commission meetings can be seen on BC TV, Charter Cable Channel 2, ATT Uverse Channel 99, live on buncombecounty.org during the meetings, or online anytime at buncombecounty.org. Mr. Frew, I think you indicated we had an economic development and attorney-client closed session matter to attend to. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143.318.11A, 4 and 3, respectively. Anticipate no action from the board in open session, just direction and closed.
All right. Is there a motion to go into closed session for the matter stated by Mr. Frew?
So moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Jones. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Belcher. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're closed session.
At this point in the evening.
Okay, your first and last name and spell it for me?
Sure, it's Reverend Jasmine Beach Ferrara, JASMINE-BECH-FERRARA. I'm the Executive Director of the Campaign for Southern Equality.
Did I come to your house? No?
Maybe so.
With your kids?
Oh, I don't have kids.
You don't have kids?
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, no,
someone else.
maybe I met you at one of the other
But we've
ones.
met.
I know
Yeah.
your name is familiar. Okay, so obviously I'm sure you're pleased tonight. Now, you're a person of faith and you've heard some of, a lot of scriptures quoted tonight. How do you feel, I guess, with their interpretation? I'm just quoting what they're saying, what some people are calling different interpretations of the Bible, saying that this is morally wrong.
Well, my Christian faith teaches me to always love my neighbor and always love my enemy. And in moments like tonight, it's a powerful reminder what it means to actually love our neighbors, which is to treat each other with compassion, and follow the teachings of a loving God, and following the teachings of Jesus, who was often on the margins of community, looking to those who were neglected and left behind. And I think what happened tonight, obviously, was there was a conversation about faith. There are a lot of different ways to interpret Scripture, and that's just part of how the Christian tradition works. But what happened tonight was about what our government is doing, and about local leaders saying we need to take measures to protect lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people from discrimination. This is a group that's vulnerable to discrimination and needs to be protected from it. And that, for me, is completely in keeping with the teachings of Christian faith that show to teach all people with compassion and love, to try to live in the tradition of a loving God and a loving Christ.
Have you ever been discriminated against? Do you believe outwardly?
I haven't been discriminated against in an employment setting, but as a gay person living in North Carolina, I'm discriminated against each and every day. My wife and I are legally married, and that's recognized in 9 states, but it's not recognized in North Carolina. I believe that's a form of discrimination. And what we're talking about tonight is a reality of employment discrimination, which is a reality. 90% of transgender people report discrimination or harassment in the workplace. 90% is a pretty staggering figure. Another significant figure is that 73% of 2012 voters support protecting LGBT people from employment discrimination. So Buncombe County commissioners were not going out on a limb tonight in terms of public opinion. They weren't going out on a limb in terms of the state of the law. What they were doing is saying we're going to stand up for people who live in this county and employees of this county. And we're going to do our best to treat everyone respectfully as we have a conversation that is charged, but where there is a clear right direction for the county to move in.
Thank you. I appreciate Thank you very much. Thank you so much. It'll be on tonight at 10
Okay, it's very
o'clock.
nice to see you
Thank
again. And did
Nice
you
to see
connect with the communications representative? Just want to make sure that's. I know we always send stuff to your station. Okay. No, I am too, but so I was praying for police who are over LGBT, and I was praying for folks who are open in conversation. So I do think our community will continue to have charged discussions about the broader topics of LGBT equality. But we weren't talking about and I do hope that we can just move forward. I hope this passes on this kind of next, at the next meeting, and Memphis and the club have to receive it.
That's your, for sure.
Okay, yeah, I tried a lot of materials that come. Yeah, I'll be really interested in your story. Yeah, I have something up on lines. Oh, wow, so busy night for you. Oh, yeah. Yeah,
fired or passed over for promotion or something bad happened on the job because they were trans or gay. Or that was their experience, whether or not that was proven by the evidence, I suppose, is a question that we never reached. But it's pretty frequent. I have one right now, a trans employee who's still employed by our employer, not Buncombe County, but employed by a private employer, and she's having trouble because she can't. They're not letting her use the bathroom. So there's things like that that can be really hard for LGBT employees, and a lot of times these folks are so afraid of being fired they won't speak out. So I did a workshop for about 50 trans employees in South Carolina, and of those 50 employees, there were people that the years they were I can't look. So most employees, because their employer doesn't have policy, they should be fired because of who they are. So they won't say anything. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's a fun new addition too. We're gonna go grab a bite to eat. We haven't had dinner yet.
Hear about you eat. You don't hear about me.
So what do we need? Do we need to do a revise? Steve and Charles and I are having lunch tomorrow with the chair and exec committee for school. I have been moving forward with the deal.
It may be easier. No, it's probably easier for you. Do a separate one. It's a whole separate bill.
I think it would be. I may pay for it out of behavioral health money.
Well, that's fine. But and what I was gonna say, and then have Steve and whomever else reimburse you for their cost.
Yeah, I'm doing it whether they do it.
Well, I know that, but
I will bring it up. Do it, and that's through the fund. Okay. Do you want to work on Outlook, or do you want me to get?
It doesn't matter to me one way.
Well, why don't I just take the one you got and give it a shot?
Well, no, that's not all I would do. No, I can just send. No, look, I'll send you a new engagement. I'll just do a new engagement letter. That'll note specifically what it is. Back in Greensboro, they'll set up a separate account, and I will tell them. Sometimes they merge things, but I'll tell them that this is a separate billing, so that we can track that. But, I need to get it.
Hey, Craig?
Hey, Craig.
I won't leave. I'll sit here.
Yeah, sit here and let's
Wait.
Oh, you mean understand?
Yeah, all the love.
A little bit.
See, they want us.
Yeah. Oh, no.
He's wanting to move it up late.
8:30.
All right, we're back in session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion by Vice Chair Jones, second by Commissioner Frost. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.
All right. Hang in there.
I sold my soul to the devil, and he had a Bible in his hand.
No. Devil's not involved.
You got it all?
That makes me so sick to hear those people. That is not Christianity. That is disgusting. What that is.
You gotta let that go.
That's not what I quit years ago.
But that's not interruptive.
I know, but
It's not. You gotta realize some of the little listen. That's hard, you gotta understand. You personally, you could not have done any better, because the thing you did that was really expanded on is the last couple of things that you did. Hey, the last couple of things that you did, trying to have that pleasure clearly made.